Guys, do you guys want to say hi to YouTube? Hi, YouTube. Welcome on in. Hey, appreciate y'all being here. We're probably going to have the wonderful and incredible spiritual analysis in here as well as, of course, the one and only Natalie Hunter, as you guys know, at a later point throughout the stream. I had to go. I was being a little Pepega earlier. I woke up and I fell back asleep because I was like, oh, yeah, it's only 11 something. Didn't realize it was 1 something. So this episode, we're probably going to take a little bit longer with if it is well structured and whatnot. So I'm letting you guys know that. With that being said, that is if time allows it, and it's also if my body allows it. Uh, with that being said, hi, thanks so much for the follow. Thanks so much for the sub 04. Appreciate it. With that being said, guys, hey, come and join us. Every Sunday is Mushoku Tensei Sunday. Every Sunday is Zom 100 Sunday as well. So come and join us over here. We are now down to a 4 anime rotation, which is Mushoku Tensei, Zom 100, Arcane, and Heavenly Delusion. So if any of those anime interests you, come and join us. And if you want to have an argument, a discussion, actually, like an actual well-grounded discussion on Mushoku Tensei, come and join. It's always more than open. With that being said, the best wizard analysis. Yep. This episode is only 5 minutes long. I hope that's a good thing. I hope. Why don't we go ahead and jump into it, yeah? Let's see, guys. Oh, I have to make sure you're not muted. There we go.
今日のランニングはティンダロスバスカビルそうかそうかよしよし
The fact that he's running, hold on. The fact that he's actually going out there, and I know that he probably named his I know the best boys. Well, no, like it's not really schizo as it is like, how do you put it? Because for me, looking just this beginning scene, 24. I want to talk about this a little bit. And you guys might be like, "What the fuck? We're only 20 seconds in, bro." No, that's a sign. That's a sign of someone working through depression, Sagas. That is a legitimate sign of someone working through depression. Sometimes we anthropomorphize out when we're working through our own issues, right? One of the biggest things that I've seen, especially for people that have major depressive disorder or have gone through a major depression or traumatic depressive disorder, is they literally, like that self-talk that we have, we create things in order to normalize our base of support. Our base of support is here, our next base of support is here, our next base of support is here, right? So I might name, oh wow, Charlie, are you gonna be okay today, Charlie? I hope you're okay today, Charlie. Talk to me a little bit. Oh yeah, we sometimes anthropomorphize out as a way of, like, especially if we don't have an active support network, as a way of establishing that support network for ourselves, right? Because all of a sudden I see that Charlie is my way of communication. Hi V, how you doing? Appreciate you guys. Drop some love for V, an incredible fucking content creator, incredible VTuber. Go show her some love and support. Exercise helps with depression. Absolutely. A good sleep cycle helps with depression. Good food, good support network, and how we walk around, how we communicate. In case you guys are wondering, dude, you're 20 seconds in, 20 something seconds in. What are you talking about? Put it this way. If you lost your phone, and if you were, say, a little bit overweight and it was hard for you to walk around, would it be easier for you to get out of this depression, or would it be harder? And by this, I mean, like, it's hard for you to get out of bed. And it's already hard for you to get out of bed because of depression, you know? How does MT contrast with other anime you've seen? MT doesn't the way that MT contrasts with other anime that we've seen is MT doesn't shy away from the hard topics. MT doesn't, like, at least from the other anime, MT does not shy away from being like, okay, we're depressed and hey, waifu that you just met is not going to cure this. Hey, we're feeling like, Sarah did not automatically like alleviate Rudius's problems in the previous episode. The way that we've seen it is not like, oh, but I love this person. Like, Rudius has to go through this journey of self-reflection and healing. And this is something that we've seen in episode, like in season 1, right? Vitamin D does wonders. Yes, touching grass does wonders as well. A lot of things out there. Sun also helps with depression. Yep. But like Mushoku Tensei, doesn't shy away from some heavy elements, and that is what I love about Mushoku Tensei. Is other shows would be like, nope, we're just gonna zoom on over this. Mushoku Tensei is like, nah, you're gonna feel this because this is what the character needs to feel to grow. So seeing Rudius, right? Seeing Rudius go through this, seeing Rudius quite literally have his boots on and he's running around and whatnot. This is telling me that he's not healed, right? Because people automatically will make this assumption. They'll probably look at this and they're like, Rudius is healed. Hallelujah. Rudius is healed, ladies and gentlemen. No. Healing takes like in case you guys don't know, one of my big theses, especially when I was doing my master's, one of the many that I worked on was on relationships, on relationship attachment and dissolution, otherwise known the process as to how you heal and why you break up, and your self-perceived recovery time, how long it takes for you to heal. One of the big things that came up with significant results was it takes you about half the amount of time to start to genuinely heal, right? And by that I don't mean like, oh, I've dated, so like I'm healed. No, no, no. I mean like for you to try and find a little bit of closure within yourself, it takes about half that amount of time and or good natural supports to lessen that amount of time, right? Because your body, it's like quite literally something ripping away from your body, right? So what happens when you're hurt? It takes forever for it to heal, right? It takes forever for you to start the healing process. And even when like you're hurt, once you start the healing process, guess what? Like let's say that you hurt your leg. You take a step, oh my god, that hurt. Okay, you take another step, okay, it's a little bit easier. It's a little bit easier. You still feel the pain. And some people feel that pain all the way for the rest of their life. It doesn't get easier, you know. Some complain that how they're rushing to, oh well, I haven't seen any of that. I've been staying absolute. I literally slept all day since yesterday. uh so that's exactly why I'm throwing that out there, is like Rudius's journey, at least in these first 20 seconds for me, is showing like he's gearing himself up for the process of healing. He already took a first step of healing. He's starting to take these active steps to wanting to better himself. And I'm not sure if this comes off for you guys this way, but for me, this is a very clear indicator that this is someone that is starting to use his coping skills without him even knowing, his natural coping skills, to start bettering himself, which is huge. He's on that healing grind, right? Doesn't mean that he's gonna be healed 100%. Nah, 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 nah. He's gonna be healing, you know, for a good while probably.
数ヶ月、俺は予定通り冒険者家業についている。依頼をこなしながら、町の人や冒険者たちに俺の名前を覚えてもらい、
Hey, look at
未
him
だ行方
go.
の知れないゼニスに届くように各地に広めてもらおうって寸法だ。
いいぞハルク、ヘラクレス、もっとだ、もっと。
If Rudius can do it, you can do it. No, guys, please listen to your own body at times. Rudius is going Hulk mode here, but it's good. It is so good. Like, it is legitimately so good to see him working out and like starting to become the Rudius. Notice I said starting to become the Rudius that he was, or like, you know, a better version of himself from season one, right? Someone that's starting to heal. I can do maybe 15 push-ups. Hey, there you go. 15 push-ups is good, Mickey. 15 push-ups is good. He made an altar. He made an altar for the holy. And of all things I expected, my man took the time for his feeling. Hey, everyone's healing process looks different. We are all hail the holy relic, guys. I want to see all hail the holy relic in chat. But all of us take a different approach to healing, right? Some of us turn to religion to start the healing process, ladies and gentlemen. All hail the holy relic. Yeah, some of us turn into a religious aspect to start the healing process. So is this normal? Yes, especially since we've seen his behavior since season one. We've seen how much he adored it. But it also makes me wonder. This might be a me just shooting way down the line or anything like that. In case you guys don't know, the light novel chapters that we've read on here. Haven't read anything else past that because I don't have time. Literally any waking time that I do have, I spend it streaming here with you guys. But one key aspect that comes up to me is this parataxic distortion, this pedestal that is being built, right? That has been built for Roxy. If Roxy in a future orientation, future situation, because we know that she's an individual, she's a person that has emotions and goes through everything. What happens the moment that, like, for whatever reason, even for a small instance, say that Roxy oversteps a boundary? Is Rudy okay with that? Let's say that for whatever reason, Roxy is put into a pressurized situation where she has to make a decision and she pushes Rudy as his boundaries, or she does something that makes Rudy feel uncomfortable. Is Rudy okay with that? God cannot make mistakes. Roxy can do no wrong. She is God. And then another thing that I'm like wondering is, because right now we're taking this time in, right? We're taking this time in to see Rudy start developing himself, to see Rudy start healing, to see Rudy's journey throughout everything. Something that comes that, like, especially through his own, like, self-healing, his self whatever, right? Something that comes into my mind is he ready for a conversation to happen? And I know you guys must be like, what the fuck are you talking about? The reason why I'm saying this is because there's a parataxic distortion already being built. And there's a pedestal, where he kept Eris at, especially after doing the do and having the sexy times, where it was up here. So as we're seeing this, it's that's sort of what's coming into my mind is he, right? And I mean this in a good way. Is he ready for a conversation if he were to ever bump into, like, anyone? Elena Lee's, or 101 other people. If, like, oh yeah, I know your dad. What if he runs back into his dad? What if he runs back into Aisha, right? Or if he runs back into, like anyone? So I'm throwing this out there just as a, like, is he ready to have that conversation? Because oof, oof, oof. So it would be harder to talk to someone from his past. Well, coterism, it's gonna bring up emotions. I'll use my own experience as this. I had a really, really bad breakup, right? I had a horrible, horrible breakup before going into my master's program. Um, Tremendously bad. It completely affected me. I was down and out for a good bit. That's all I got to say. Like, I'm not going to go into trigger warning stuff, but I was down and out for a good bit. Um, and, I tried to keep it to myself and to my, like, immediate family, my brothers, my family, right? But as I was going out, it would be friends and stuff. Oh, so where's your partner? What happened? We like, I thought that you and her would end up getting married and stuff. Like, what happened? Oh, 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 really? Like, all of a sudden you have to deal with these emotions and, like, the aspects of your past being brought back up again. And you have to either stand up and, be like, oh, that's the past, dude. Shit happened, whatever. We move on from here. Wallow in it a little bit or take steps forward. And it hurts, man. It hurts. And stop. I cry. But it's a very common thing that is thrown out there, A lot of people go through this. Like, if you've gone through a breakup, how many of your parents or your family have asked you of that? Mine have, I'll be honest, and others have as well. So it's a very common cycle that comes to this, which is why I'm wondering for Rudy specifically, like, because this is his first, like, I guess, big relationship dissolution. Is he prepared for a conversation, like, at some point? Because I'm assuming that Paul at least has to ask him about this, right? Or someone, if he were to ever run back into them, he'd have to ask him, like, yo, what happened with Eris? Is he prepared for that combo? My nephew did. Oof. Notice me, senpai. How'd that go? How'd that go? Oof. Although, to be fair, I was dating someone else at that point, so it was a lot easier for me to be like, well, look, this is my partner. It was a lot easier for me to just curtail that discussion a little bit. My breakup was public enough that everybody already knew about it. Oof. That was a decade ago, but I still feel the thing. Yeah, yeah. And there's some people that I haven't seen in a while that, like, if I bump into them today, they've asked, and I'm like, yeah, yeah. Anyway.
お前らこの依頼ステップとリーダーが受けてやる。イルブロン洞窟に現れたスノードレイクの群れなんざ俺たちにかかればなんてことはねえ。帰ってきたら俺たちの偉業をたたえるがいいさ。
My dude gave a motivational speech. What is this dude's Riz level? My dude gives a motivational speech before heading out. Aw. And impulsive, like, I'm like, dude, what the fuck? He's not like, because most people would try and give a motivational speech during a fight, but he's like, you know what? We're gonna prep beforehand, get our morale up. We're gonna go out and do this. I feel that. I feel that. Follow me and get rich.
泥沼、この間も助かったぜ。
いえ、こちらこそ助かりました。
Quagmire.
おう、泥沼、お前の母親のこと、どっかで聞いたらお前に届く。
Quagmire? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Rudius is the anti-Quagmire giggity. Yeah, right. Family Guy reference. I'll fight. Yeah, that's awesome. It's good to know though that he's healing and that he has people out there that like are he's now starting to become friends again. And he's starting to go ahead and like let his like name be known, and people starting to know him and care about him, and like this whole journey is continuing. You know, like his own journey of self growth and whatnot is starting to happen. It happened off camera. This is something I actually kind of would have loved to have seen. Is like just a little like I guess a little like 10 seconds of like him running around, like, you know, just growing, maybe like seasons changing and him saying hi and like people actually starting to recognize him. But this is still a very, very nice way of like introducing the fact that like, hey, people do know you. People are starting to recognize you and know you a little bit more. That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. Quagmire's a signature move.
よろしくお願いします。
活動の甲斐もあってか、この町におけるルーデウス・グレイラットの名前はなかなかに広まってきた。もっとも泥沼という二つ名の方が広まってしまっているのだが、名前を売るのに一つの町で数ヶ月から1年、気の遠くなるような時間がかかるかもしれないが、でもやるしかないのだ。
He brings it out in public. My dude brings it out in public. Oh, this is what I love about it, man. I genuinely like love the fact that we're seeing that, like, you know, because Roxy has been one of his biggest, like, if we're gonna talk about like someone that has allowed him to change, right? If we're gonna talk about like a literal agent of change, it's been Roxy, right? And it's been things related to Roxy. It's not his hands, it's the panties. Like, if we're gonna be realistic about it, Rudius is one of Rudius's big concepts. There is Roxy has been a big pillar for him. Roxy has allowed him to start taking these steps forward to start growing, right? Why have shame of his religion? Some people do. Some people are like, you know, they encounter a difficulty and immediately it's like, oh, okay, that's shameful. I should not enjoy this, and so on and so forth. But seeing the fact that he's holding on to it for dear life, it makes me wonder that like the whole idea of this pedestal work is getting cemented even further. Like, Roxy is a person. She has emotions and she has needs and she has everything, right? She's an individual. If in the future you were to meet up with her and she's not the Roxy that you knew, and she were to do anything to you, are you okay with that? Are you okay with breaking that illusion of that pedestal? Or would you latch on harder because this is your anxious attachment? Oh, it's okay. Roxy did what she had to do, but she's mine. She did what she's mine. I've had her on this pedestal 10 times. She came to me. It's okay. She just, like, you know, there was some, like, you know, she just yelled at me, but she's here with me now. She said she'd always be by my side. You know, like, is this the level that it goes to? Because of the anxious attachment that we're seeing here. Because this is the pedestal and the pillars that are allowing him to change. You know. And then there's literally starting a religion. Yeah. That's why it's a big aspect to that. Thanks so much for the follow, man. Appreciate it.
ですよね、ロキシー師匠。
I love Roxy though. Don't get me wrong. Roxy is
ルーデウ
best
ス・グレイラッ
like
トです。よろしくお願いします。
あんたがあの有名な泥沼か。
有名かどうか知りませんが。
じゃあ早速取り掛かってくれ。
はい。
I'm gonna back it up because there's some copyright songs.
ルーデウス・グレイラットです。よろしくお願いします。
あんたがあの有名な泥沼か。
有名かどうか知りませんが。
You know what I love about this?
はい。
誰かのせいにした嫌になっちゃうなこのまま何かを待ち続けるふりする
You know what I love about this? He might be doing mundane tasks, but he has the light in his eyes. Compared to the Rudius where the like, you know, where he shut his windows in and he closed himself off for the rest of the world. Like, this is someone that's at least has a fire stoked inside of him. That music is hitting and everything, man. This is
ここから僕はやり直せますかどこまでも行ける気がしたあの時の僕はどこだきっと大人になったとかそういうことじゃなくてさあと少しだけの勇気変えられた明日はあったそれさえ気づけなかった
Oh, dude.
そんな言われ
Rudy.
たくさんだいつまでもなんてないんだ終わりゆくその前に一歩踏み出してみた受け
Can
入れ
Sarah
ながら祈りながら
huge. I think for me personally, that is a huge semblance of him starting to heal. It's not that he's healed, but it's a huge semblance of like, I've talked about this before. We as human beings, what do we do? Whenever we're playing, what do we do? Whenever we start healing, what do we do? We have two ways. Ed, I think you should read the light novel portion of these episodes. I mean, let's take the anime for what it is first, right? I think that's one of the big aspects of this is let's take the anime for what it's showing first, and then whatever is needed afterwards, and not today, but later on, well, we'll look at as well. But yeah, more than likely, when we're looking at this, this is one of the big portions that I'm throwing out there is we heal by play. We heal by aspects of getting out there again. We heal by either extending a rope or using a stick, right? Some people use a stick and they literally want to hit everything and hit everyone and distance themselves. And you have to be this far away from me. And this is their way of isolating and like a hurt puppy, you know, lick their wounds clean. Rudius has already gone through that. Rudius is now using the rope to try and connect with others. Rudius is now trying to go ahead and start healing, right? And these are huge aspects to do that. It's like I'm seeing this and I'm seeing someone that like is still struggling through everything, is still growing through everything, but yet he's starting to be a bit more and more part of the community, which is a big aspect that happens, right? Sarah, does Sarah trust Rudy? I don't know. I don't think so. I think that there's still a lot in there. But I mean, would you trust Rudy? I'm throwing this out there as a genuine question to you guys. Would forcing himself to work to keep himself preoccupied, I think he had almost every single day, even if it's just so Alto guy. The reason why I'm actually gonna disagree with you there is he might be forcing himself to work, yes, but you force yourself to work and you might think it's a preoccupied nature. That is like here. But realistically, as individuals, when you want to start the process of healing, you'll find any excuse to go and start this process. In therapy, we have a saying: we can take a horse to like to a water source, but we can't make it drink. So, i.e., this is the same thing when it comes to the process of healing. So everyone can be like, go to a therapist and take you to a therapist, but it's up to you to start that healing process. And we ourselves in our own healing journey, we can see what needs to be done, but it's up to our own selves to start that journey. Even unconsciously, it's up to us to be open to be able to go and do it, you know. It seems like he's willing to end it all. It's a risk for him to take on adventure, but counter arrows were good enough to take that risk. Well, I mean, that's the thing. If you don't ever want to change, you will never change, no matter what you do. Exactly, Nick. And this is a big aspect to this. Is he has to be open to that change, right? If we take this Rudius here versus Earthius, when he was at Earth, which one has the capacity for change? Which one has the capacity for genuine healing? Both of them have capacity for healing, but which one is taking the steps to heal? Oh, the difference is humongous. Yeah, the difference is huge. king, the one that is in a. But no, this is why I bring it up, because it's true, right? Earthius, if he really wanted to, if he put his mind to it, like he could have done 101 other aspects, right? If he wanted to start the healing process, if he had the good support structure, if he had 101 other things out there to start healing, like he could have started the healing process, right? Why? Because his parents tried to be there, he pushed them out, right? We know that, like from that fact. We don't know about family. I don't know anything about anything else. But if he had like a good friend, someone there for him, maybe he could have started to start that healing process. If he maybe started looking into, I don't know, work from home jobs or something like that. Maybe if there was Discord for him and he found a Discord kitten. I don't fucking know, dude. I'm not gonna go into 101 other aspects out there. But like it has to be for him to start the healing process for himself. Rudius, on this hand, even though he's hurt, he has started the healing process. He has started going out there. He has started interacting with others. He has started being a part of this community. He has started growing. He has started working out for himself. He has now kept up with his religion of the Holy Relic and so on and so forth. So he has started his own healing process. And that is a huge semblance of everything. And sometimes we lie to ourselves and we're like, oh yeah, I'm only going out because I really want to see if there are any cuties out there. When in reality, you're trying to go out there in order to start making sure that your social skills are starting to level up, right? You're like there's a difference between internal and external motivation. Your external motivation might be, oh yeah, I want to go out there because I want to go get laid. I want to make sure that I'm out there doing stuff, right? I want to make money. But internally, you're like, I have to start working on my social skills, and I have to start like making sure that I can at least have decent conversations with people when I need to go out and do certain stuff. So this is a big aspect to throw out there, is a character can have two different motivations inside of themselves and it be okay, because as human beings we have a shit ton of motivations that motivate us to do certain things, and that's all part of like a healing journey for ourselves.
よしよしよし。今帰り？ええ、今しがた依頼が終わって報告したら宿に戻るところです。
Hey yo,
私たちこれから依頼を受けるところだけど、一緒に行く？
connection.
最初の縁もあってか、カウンターアローとは何度も組ませてもらっている。俺の目的からすると、一つのパーティーと何度も行動を共にするのは効果が薄いのだが。
出発はいつですか？
別に行きたくないんだったら断れば？どうしてもってわけじゃないしさ。
すみませんね、優柔不断なもので。
その敬語もやめたら？気持ち悪いよ。
サラやめな。
はーい。
But this forced smile, right? Because I'm gonna throw it out this way, right? This forced smile, this forced nicety that, like, you know, stop being too polite, it gives me the creeps and whatnot. For a lot of people, this is very true. Like, you know, also thanks so much for all the follows for everyone that I've noticed in here, which is, how many of you guys, like, I'll say it like this. How many of you guys say sorry for literally anything? People are like, you rub the person the wrong way, and you're like, sorry. You do certain things, sorry. How many of you guys say sorry for for way too much things? Yeah, a lot of people do. A lot of people do, right? I'm Canadian, so though the reason why I'm bringing this up is because for a lot of people, you know, this has become an almost like natural way of just being like, oh yeah, sorry about this. But there are a lot of cultures, I'm like, it's just a natural way of being for social construct, for trying to go ahead and avoid confrontation. Which for me, anytime that we say sorry, it's because they're like, we might not like confrontation, right? Confrontation might make us anxious. And if someone were to go ahead and call that out and or get more agitated, it's just their way of appeasement, right? Of appeasing the situation and moving on from it. A-okay. It's a coping skill a lot of us have. It's a defense mechanism that kicks in. Politeness in Rudy, that's something that we can go ahead and talk about, is it can be this defense mechanism that kicks in. This defense mechanism that kicks in, and he's automatically using this as a way to appease a situation. But for others, for other cultures, for other people, it might seem as rude. It might be really, really fucking rude. And that's a key thing to throw out there, right? Where it's like, don't say sorry unless you mean it, right? Or so on and so forth. Like you could get 101 responses from that, where people might not necessarily believe the value that you're actually sorry and would rather just want you to walk away. And for you, that might be rude. So it's two conflicting ideologies in this. I'll bring up an example. How many of you guys hate when highly educated people talk down to you? Even in my field, there are people in a lot of my, like the doctoral classes that I've had, where they try to use very verbose language. And my instinct call out, and luckily a majority of my professors agree with me, is, will normal people, everyday average people, understand what you're saying? Or are you just like so up in your like nose that you think, oh yes, I have to say it in this specific way, to even like people that have never had a high school education? It's patronizing. It's a superiority form of talk, and it comes off really fucking rude. And this is a big argument that I've even had with some current therapists that I supervise and talk about as well, which is, when it comes to conversations with others, do not talk down to them. Meet them at their level. If they're cursing, you curse. Fuck it, right? It is what it is. If they're talking, like, if they're able to go ahead and be like, hey, so what does this mean? Explain it to them. Could continue on. But you should not talk down to someone, right? Because all of a sudden it feels weird. But in a situation like this with Rudy and Sarah, these are just different. Like if we're talking about like brought from Renner's ecological theory, this is just showing that these are two different people with different upbringings, and one of them having a more nobility like upbringing, right? Where he's learned how fake niceties, where that fake smile, where fake politeness might get you what you want, as opposed to being there with the everyday human being. Yeah, that's oof. In case you guys are wondering, because Masters brought this up and it's kind of a joke, but I hate to put it this way because I did it as a joke. But I had a client that, like, we were talking and I said something. He's like, and he's like on God, and I was like, on God, no cap. And my dude was fucking blown away. My dude was blown away. He was like, you speak. He was blown away just at the fact that, like, no cap, bro. No cap. Oh, one of us. He's one of us. The language of gods. I know. Anyway, let's go.
気持ち悪いよ。
サラやめな。
はーい。
で、ルーデス、行くのかい？
はい、参加させていただきます。
じゃあ、依頼だけ先に決めようかい。
おお、ガルガウ遺跡。第一次ジンマ大戦の時に作られた要塞です。
魔族の建築物は魔大陸でいくつも見てきたが、ここはまた違ったか。
Why can I see this working like an Elden Rings game? Dude, I would love a fucking Mushoku Tensei Elden Ring style game. Could be in the same world, not necessarily Rudius, but like could be in the same world, just fucking increase the level of everything, dude. This would be fucking insane. Like, I'm looking at all of this, I'm like, the world, we've seen the demon continent, we've seen, like, like this, just a random adventure. Yeah.
感じがするな。
いつまで見てんの？
あ、いや、今行きます。
建物とか好きなの？
特別に好きというわけじゃないですが、こういう場所をあんまり見たことないもので。
Where's that hand, brother? Hey, yo, where the fuck is that hand, brother? Hold on. My dude saved her and copped a feel, Rudy. Unintentionally, Rudy. Rudy.
どこ触ってんのさ。
別にどこも。ごめんなさい。
Rudy's over here giving the full service, man. The full service of being saved by Rudy. Oh man, this show's gonna fucking kill me. Oh, fuck, dude. Okay. Oh, I'm ready.
とここだね。
今回の依頼はここに落ちている大量のスノードレイクの鱗を集めること。永久の依頼にしては随分楽な仕事だ。
奥はスノードレイクの縄張りだ。あの像よりも先には進まないようにするんだよ。
スノードレイクとの戦闘になったら大変だが、ここはあくまで奴らの通り道。隠れてやり過ごせばいいだけなんだが。
こっちも魔物がいない。
I just noticed that is the first time, like, or seeing the eye activate again. I think that's awesome. That is such an awesome way of bringing up that concept again without it just needing a full reintroduction, right? Hi, Moonar, how you doing? Nice to see you here, man. Appreciate you being here. But that is such a nice way of just, like, it reintroduces aspects of Rudy, you know, coming back, but also, like, the whole, like, concept of his, like, demon eye that he has. Like, that is actually, I'm pretty glad they it's not like a hard introduction back in, but like a soft introduction back in.
それにしてもあの像、どこかで見たことある気が。さすがに捏造しすぎじゃないか。
なんだ、嫌な予感がするっす。
El Kukui, run! Oh shit! I don't want to be that guy, but when you got scales coming from underneath your crotch, I think you might need to look into it. That's an adult what? Kirishika form. Oh shit! She has an adult form? Oh, legs, my bad. Ooh. Ooh. Bro, okay, let's talk about it. Rudius being a leader, even without the need to be called out. Why am I saying this? This is Rudius slowly falling back into that role, right? Where he tells everyone to run. Everyone doesn't have a second chance to think or whatnot. He did get left behind, but think about it this way: would previous Rudy have said anything? No. So then this is a Rudius that is slowly starting to fall back into the role of even like subconsciously and even subconsciously taking that first step forward, right? And automatically calling out what needs to be said, calling out what needs to be done. Because for him, it's like, all right, run, because I'm pretty sure he wants him to get to safety. Considering the fact that he's taking on all of these things alone, like, my dude's a fucking G, dude. Like, Rudius is badass. I don't care what anybody says. Rudius is legitimately... Yeah, he was the leader of Dead End. Exactly. It's legitimately, like, insane. Oh, Holy Relic. Aww.
小さなくすぶりが巨大なる恵みを焼き尽くさん。フレームスロー。
行くよ、バトリス。
Oh, they came back.
私らには向かってきてない。目の前のやつをそらすように攻撃を当てろ。よっしゃ、左から来るぞ。
Oh, he thought oh, my fucking heart, bro. Rudy is really just like was okay with it. He's like, all right, I can handle this by myself. And then seeing them just rush back in here and save him. Support networks matter, man. Like actual people that care about you, friends and whatnot. Wow. Rudius, I can't even imagine the amount, like the feelings that might surge from this. It might be like either A, I could have handled this on my own, or B, Whoa. Okay. Whoa. Counter Arrow are good people. They sound like good people. Oh, that face. Oh fuck. Oh fuck, dude, what the fuck? My dude jumps like 4 stories down, like what?
Domo, Counter Arrowのティモシーです。先ほど
人の獲物を横取りしておいてヘラヘラしてんじゃねえよ。
横取り？あんたらが仕事中だなんて話は知らないよ。
大々的に言っておいただろうが。
知らないって言ってんだよ。ルーです。
Best girl punch. But no, let's reason. Let's reason for a second. Would you be frustrated? Yeah. Would you feel frustrated if you were working in a specific area? If you were like, wait a minute, I'm announcing this to the whole guild. I'm saying this out loud. We're being really rambunctious and, you know, trying to do this charismatic speech in the guild and saying, we're going to go and hunt them down. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. The bird drones out there. We're going to go hunt them down. You know, if we're being so, and someone just comes in and actually tries to take that, you'd be fucking pissed. Yeah, you would be pissed. And here's the thing is, even as a leader in a situation like this, right? Damn, kill, steal, yeah. Even in a situation like this, let's take this a step further. You have people that you brought along with you because you told them that you would make money and that you would be like, you know, that you would do so on and so forth. And you come over here and now you have 2 things to do. Either one, you have to go ahead and bring the, like, logically speaking, bring a nice resolution between your group that you brought with you and the other group that was here. A lot of work. A lot of people need to be in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and they can't be in a fight or flight state, which is going to be really, really fucking hard considering they were in a fight or flight state. Or B, you have to stand up and pose yourself as this figure in order to keep the respect of the people that you're with, right? And to also try and put up some strong boundaries with the other group. This is where it's a hard line to draw, right? Where if we flip the perspective, it's like, my dude is in a tough spot. My dude is in a really, really tough spot where, you know, he has to go ahead and, number one, reason out with both the group that he's with and reason out with this new group, right? And be in a state of calmness, or try and set some strong boundaries while keeping the respect of the people that he brought with him. And at the same time, like, telling them what happened. Look, this is what came through. It is really, really hard. Like, that is rough, man. The group management from this would be insanely tough. And it makes sense. Like, for someone to, like, who's not completely, you know, in a state of calm to, like, reason out with some sort of anger like that.
何か知ってるのかい？確かこの間彼らが依頼を受けるという話をギルドでしていました。内容はイルブロン洞窟に大量発生したスノードレイクの群れの討伐。
イルブロン洞窟だ。1日は離れたところじゃないかい。ここはガルガウ遺跡だよ。
スザンヌ、落ち着きなさい。
ティモシー、あんた大丈夫なのかい？
ええ、手加減はしてもらったようなので。
Bro,
サラも弓を下ろして。その話は私も知っています。なるほど。イルブロン洞窟とこのガルガウ遺跡の採用が何らかの要因でつながってしまい、こちらの魔物がなだれ込んでしまったのでしょう。
じゃあてめえらは別の依頼でここに？
そうです。なんならギルドに戻って確認してもらっても構いませんよ。
いきなり殴ったのは悪かったな。
He apologizes, bro. He apologizes, bro. He apologizes, brother. Dude, he actually, like, hey.
誤解していたのは仕方ないでしょう。こちらこそ申し訳ありません。
でもな、こいつらは俺たちの獲物だった。だからお前たちの取り分は1匹だけだ。いいな。
はい、もちろんです。さて、私たちの取り分をいただいて帰りましょうか。 町に戻ったら皆で打ち上げでもしましょう。
そうだな。飲まないとやってらんないぜ。
あんたもさ、たまには打ち上げに参加しない？
それじゃ。
Oh no, that face. Hold
あんた
on.
もさ、たまには打ち上げに参加し。
Before we even continue from there, let's talk about this, right? Did that dude, what is his name? What is Green Guy's name? I completely, like, if you guys have mentioned it, completely forgot it. That boy that doesn't look awkward at all. Soul Dad. Yeah, Soul. Did Soul do a good enough job at maintaining his position in his, I guess, party and acquiescing the other party as well? Like, being able to go ahead and, like, compromise with the other party. Along with Timothy. Did they both do a good enough job of communicating? I meant Timothy and then Soul Dad, yeah. I think so. I think both of them understanding that it was a miscommunication, apologizing, huge, fucking huge, especially in this world, and then like laying down their boundaries as to what is cool and what is not cool and going off their own way. That is pretty fucking good. And not getting into a huge argument about it. In this world, that is really, really fucking good. But also, just the dynamics from this, like inviting Rudy back to drink, Sarah having this open invitation onto Rudy. Even though at the beginning there seemed to be like a little like era of mistrust or whatnot, where she was kind of like seeing if he was who he was and whatnot, the conversation that happened, still enabling and having this like open conversation, this open line of like, here, are you gonna take my hand? Are we gonna have this conversation? Where is this gonna go? Like, it's interesting. It is a little interesting, the fact that like she's the one that's like, if we're like, it's called pinging, right? In social psychology, this is called pinging, which is when a party is interested in you, when a person is interested in you for good and or bad, they'll ping you, right? So they'll go ahead and they'll test out little things about you. You'll have these invitations, you'll have these instances that are being thrown. Sometimes though, when we're in trauma brain, we don't see these as invitations. We see them as like, oh, I guess they want me to go ahead and go over here or whatever, right? So we often get really fucking awkward. And sometimes we don't even notice them at all, which is why trauma brain and the way that we filter things out, it can be a little rough. So seeing this, it's like she's pinging them consistently, and I'm kind of wondering like what level of curiosity is in there for her. And also, is she genuinely okay with them? Is she genuinely okay with them? Is she gonna be, I don't know how to put it, like, if they were to form a party on their own, would she put up her boundaries and be distant, or would she try and get as close as possible? This is one of my two references to where my mind is. That face.
乾杯乾杯
何にせよ、あれだけ大量の魔物と相対して死ななかったのは幸運だったな。
ルーデウスは運が良かったね。
運ですかね。皆さんに助けられた感じですが。
それも含めてさ、普通のパーティーだったら見殺しにするところだから。
感謝しています。
ああ。
私じゃなくてティモシーとかスザンヌにお礼言いなよ。
そんなこと言って真っ先に飛び出したのはサラ、あんたじゃないか。いや暑かったねあれは。
ちょっと。
Hey yo, Sarah. Oh no. Oh no, Sarah was the one to rush out there first. Wait, it's cute, it's adorable, but her soon attitude has me scared. Because if she's the first one to rush out and the first one to do certain things, and she's not having this open communication with him, she only knows him as like, oh yeah, like Rudy, this guy, and I'm gonna go ahead and like, I'm gonna keep like, you know, being soon whenever he's around. What does this mean? They say they form a connection, and Rudy is still healing, and say that there are physical attributes of trauma present, right? Is she gonna take that personally? That's where my mind rushes to, is like, this would be a cute, good relationship if Rudy has fully healed. If Rudy hasn't healed, we're about to see one of like a big like dissolution. That's where I'm scared. Like, if Rudy hasn't fully healed, we're about to see a big dissolution come through. If Rudy has healed, we're about to see an awesome relationship like bloom from this. Like, this is
スザンヌやめてよ。あんたには前の時にも世話になったし、その借りを返したかっただけ。私はね、人に借りを作るのが嫌なの。
まあ何にせよみんな生きて帰ってくれた。金もがっぽり稼いだ。いい依頼だったじゃないか。
Thanks so much for the sub, man. Appreciate it.
これであいつらがいなければ本当にいい依頼だったのに。
I mean
なんなんだよな。ちょっとギルドで一番強いからって調子に乗って。
ずっと迷宮にこもってろってんだ。
あれでもパーティーリーダーなのかね。
もしかするとパウロの若い頃もあんな。
I was about to say he kind of reminds me of like if Paul was younger. And Rudius just literally took it from my mouth. Like as soon as we saw like a laid back, I was like, that would kind of be like Paul, wouldn't it? Where Paul would probably be out there and like, you know, there were the hot shots, bro. Impulsinator. Oh God, guys, would you have Aqua or Rudy as your ship? Wait, what do you mean by that? He said as much. Paul being an ass? No way. No, but it's like they have the skills to back up a lot of their own like actions and stuff, right?
感じだったのだろうか。
But that means he's a womanizer as well. Or maybe wait, I might be making a jump here. Maybe he's an Allenizer, bro. I mean, Paul looks like he'd be down for anything, bro. I'm thinking about it. I'm like, Paul in his younger days, I assume that he was just like, oh, hello. Can't be Paul. I see no females. Both need therapy, but are being shipped. Yeah. I mean, in almost any story, a lot of characters do need therapy.
Yo.
なんだい。
洞窟の中じゃ俺も気が取ってたからよ。
Hey, yo.
改めて言っておこうと思ってよ。あの場においてはまあ俺が悪かった。だがな、てめえの面嫌いだ。いつもヘラヘラしやがって。戦う時に黙って殴られて文句も言わずに「はいそうですか」と引き下がるやつは俺は嫌いだ。男には戦わなきゃいけない時がある。
ああ、まあそうですね。スザンヌにもよく言われます。気をつけます。
ああ、わかりゃいいんだ、わかりゃ。泥沼。
はい。
こいつはいいが、てめえは最悪だ。
Oh shit.
なんなんだてめえはいつも人の目を気にしやがって気持ち悪いんだよその笑み。てめえは笑えてると思ってるかもしれねえけど笑えてねえんだよ。目が他人を見下してんだよ。何様のつもりだ。
おいゾル、もうやめておけよ。
話せ。こいつはな、この世で一番自分が不幸ってつらしてやがる。何があったか知らねえが後ろ向きだ。何かから逃げてやがんだよ。俺はそういうクソガキを見るのが大嫌いなんだ。
So in case you guys don't know, he's done something. And I think this might be just like, yeah, he is calling him out on so many things. But an aspect that I'm going to go ahead and bring up that I'm sure like might go through people's heads as like normal, and I'm not sure if anybody else has. We're going to rewatch this. And this is someone, right? This is sort of manipulative techniques that is often shown in like, you learn this in either like nonverbal psychology when it comes to nonverbal cues, social psychology elements, body language, so on and so forth. How to go ahead and assert dominance and be able to go ahead and like maintain yourself. What did he do? I want you guys to pay attention to this, right? Let's not listen to what's happening, but visually, what did he do? So first off, he came and apologized. He did a foot in the door technique, right? Referencing a past event, allowing him the opportunity to approach the group even further. Once he was like, okay, I've apologized, right? He got in close. Power over. He might be drunk and whatnot. He could have taken a seat next to Rudius and done this. He decided to do it standing up and looking down at the group leader. Immediate form of a power dynamic being thrown out there. He put himself up top, looking down at the party leader, and talking down. I was on edge. I'm sorry, right? Interesting. Next step. Look at this. This is what I'm saying. Like for me, I find the like the way that like we communicate and often even our body language to be so. But she is kind of the mom of the group. You know she's. So look at this. Next step. What does he do? He goes from apologizing to having that foot in the door to touching. Next run, he puts his hand over, still over him, the same way in a manipulative stance, right? He could have gone on the side of him and talked to him, but no, he decides to go behind him, put his hand on top of him. How many of you guys are uncomfortable? Let's throw this out there. How many of you guys are uncomfortable when someone puts their hands on and they're behind you and like their hand is like back here? I am because that assumes that they have extreme familiarity. That assumes that they like, yeah. So immediately he did a foot in the door technique and he took that as a way to lean in to try and say something. Yep. So him coming behind, putting his hand there, talking to him, whispering to him like that. Whoa. You know, and then look, watch. He already put his hand there. He's talking to him. He even makes a joke. He's right in the middle, right in between both of them. Rudy is in the direct line of sight. And now he transitions from this because why did he go after Timothy? Sorry. I know that this might be weird, this might be insane. You guys might be like, well, wait a minute. Because Timothy is going to go ahead and do another opening of the door, right? If we're talking about like a double confirmation, I do a foot in the door. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, I accept your apology. Oh, let me go ahead and go over to Nick. Nick, dude, you know, I really dislike when people aren't able to go and take a punch, like, you know, and seeing you automatically acquiesce, you know, so on and so forth. If Nick says yes, that is a double positive. You've just allowed me to take this a step further. So for me, now all of a sudden it's like, okay, now the group is behind me. I've had 2 people in the group say yes. I've had 2 people give approval unconsciously. This is group dynamics, right? So now that like he's approached Timothy. Timothy's already saying, I've been passive, whatever. He's now broken this wall. Right. And he's even like patronizing with him. And look, now his true goal, what he's truly after. You see what he did? I hope that makes sense. Like for me, looking at this, it's like just a small dynamics as to what he did is he got 2 yeses from 2 people in power, and then he targeted his real target because he was at that line of sight. Now he's unloading. Now he's doing everything, and he's going way harder than he should be because it's like yes. Zan wouldn't open the door for him. I think Timothy would since he's too passive. But even saying, "Hey, I apologize," whatever, and like not being like, "Okay, dude, we get it, go away." Even that passiveness of not putting up an immediate boundary allows for people to take that next step in. Like how many people, like I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there, right? How many people, yeah, if he would have came in and targeted Rudy immediately, would the group have allowed that? No, the group probably would not have allowed that. But him knowing at least like intrinsically, you don't have to go ahead and like know this like by knowledge, but just how people work. And if you get 2 people or at least 1 person on your side and working your way in, it's a lot harder for people to target you. Pinging the group dynamics, yes, right? It's also a way of testing boundaries inside of that group dynamics. That's why this is important. Can people behave specifically while intoxicated? Yeah, a lot of people, like, this is what I'm saying is this is innate behavior that we already know. We just don't know, like a lot of people don't even know how to verbalize. Drunk people tend to have no filters and tend to test boundaries. A lot of people do, right? Which is automatically like, hey, let me go ahead and test and see how far I can get away with this. Which is why a lot of people have this thing called liquid courage when they're trying to go ahead and like go talk to someone because they see a cute person and they're like, all right, I have this liquid courage. I'm going to go and like shoot my shot. Intrinsically, you already know a lot of the dynamics present, right? But that's the thing is, this is already stuff that we already know. Like, it's intrinsic in all of us. We just don't even know like the actual steps that we take to get there. So me seeing him do this, immediately it pops out. I'm like, this is someone, right? He does have a little bit of like liquid courage in him, who is knowing how to navigate his way around, right? Who already got the 2 yeses and knows that, like, for example, Rudius is in his line of sight. This is a good way of testing out the group dynamics, good way of testing out Rudius, good way of stating what's on his mind and letting everything out there without getting an immediate pushback, or at least he might think. Really good shit. Really, really good shit.
なんだてめえはいつも人の目を気にしやがって気持ち悪いんだよその笑みてめえは笑えてると思ってるかもしれねえけど笑えてねえんだよ目が他人を見下してんだよ何様のつもりだ
おいゾルもうやめておけよ
話せこいつはなこの世で一番自分が不幸って面してやがる何があったか知らねえが後ろ向きだ何かから逃げてやがんだよ俺はそういうクソガキを見るのが大嫌いなんだ
すみません目障りでしたね以後はなるべく視界に入らないように気をつけます
叫んななんだよその態度はなめやがって自分は名前ばっかり売って金はいりませんって面して何が楽しいんだ俺たちは生きてくために金が必要だろうが
いい加減にしろ飲みすぎだ
なせこんなとちくしょおい泥沼てめえ生きてて
Interesting how this is actually a good parallel to Paul. Interesting how this is actually a really good parallel to Paul. Interesting how, like, in a very similar setting at, like, you know, a bar setting, you know, a tavern, Paul went off on Rudy, and now we're having him go off on Rudy. Are you enjoying life? Oof! Oof! Refugee writing in parallels? No way. No way.
金が必要だろうが
いい加減にしろ飲みすぎだ
なせこんなとちくしょおい泥沼てめえ生きてて楽しいのかよ楽しくねえんならさっさと死ねえ目障りなんだよクソが
At least he didn't punch him in this case
あいつ最悪だね
This is why I'm throwing it out there, dude. That's a defense mechanism, bro. The straight up defense mechanism inside, and this is reaction formation at one of its finest, right? Where we present one way, we're smiling, but deep down inside, we're fucking crying. And people can see that, bro. People can see the fact that we're altered and we're in another state. But we're showing off this customer service smile that we've learned to go ahead and be okay with, bro. That is, yeah, that's a smile of true pain. That's a smile of someone that's learned that, hey, sometimes you just have to put up your defense mechanisms. This is someone that's already learned that this is his way of being okay with not being okay. This is his way of actually being okay in the moment. And this might be his only way, right? Because if he allows himself to be deep down in his feels all the time, well, is that good for you? Is that good for you? No. Even as a psychologist, I always say feel your feels, right? But if sometimes you're like, you know what, I can't feel this right now, that's okay. That is a-okay. And for some people, we put on these masks, right? For example, I can put on this mask right now, right? I'm like Primal Ed, right? Whatever, right? And I'm just aggressive, so on and so forth. And that's all you know me as, because this is all I present off. The moment I take it off, like all of a sudden, like deep down inside, I'm feel what I need to feel. But if I'm feeling what I need to feel while putting on this mask that I'm trying to present to others, there's an incongruence. There is a moment where things are clashing against one another. And is that what I want to present in public? Am I healing? Even if I have, like, you know, this predator mask on, if I'm like, oh, wait, I have to cook now, and I'm crying, and I can't even get a word out, but I'm still putting on this mask, and I'm still putting on this mask, and this is the real me, and I'm crying, and it's seeping through all of these roles and expectations that I placed on myself. Oof. This is huge because a lot of people go through this shit and not a lot of people like to talk about it. A lot of us force ourselves to go to work and like not feel the pain that we felt throughout the week. A lot of people force themselves to like try and like be okay and wear certain masks in order to like stabilize themselves. It's huge. It's so wow. Oh shit. Saga continues.
またおこぼれ狙いか
目的あってのことですから。
何が目的だよ。お前やることが中途半端なんだよ。
どうも。
どうですか。
何かありましたか。
見るとサラがな。
Wait a second, wait a second.
聞いても。
Hey, yo, wait a second.
死んだよ。
No. No. Oh, what the fuck? Okay. What? None the fuck? They're dead? Bro, no. Well, attachment trauma comes again, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, because my thing is, if you look at this and you think, oh yeah, he's gonna experience that attachment trauma the same way he did the first time, no. This is why I will always say we need to experience adversity. We need to experience different points of views. We need to be okay with people having different points of views, even if they're wrong, right? Because we are resilient individuals. We're resilient creatures if we're going to be like honest with ourselves, right? And whenever really like something hurts us really, really bad, we might hit a level of threshold of pain that we might like something similar happens. We might not reach that. Like we might be close, but we will not reach that same threshold again because we've learned coping techniques, coping skills to get us to at least survive. You know, there are adventures. Mortality rate is probably really, really high, right? It is. But through that, I'm wondering how they got killed. And I'm also, aside from that, what does this mean for yourself if you heard this, right? You're like, this is a group that you're starting to kind of get attached to. There seems to be a lot of transitions happening, and I'm not sure, this might just be me, but I feel like maybe there's a lot of info there as to like how they've grown as a group, or maybe like Rudy, like it was like literally like Rudius in that argument, and then it was like skip and this happened. So I'm wondering if this is the next day or next month or something, but it was an interesting transition. Sorry, that just popped up in my head and I was like, okay, it's a little interesting that they, but through that, like looking at this, it's like, how much have they grown? How like what is going through that? That's how much is Rudius really taking this in? Is he genuinely affected by this, or is he like, I need to go and save them? I need to go and revive them. If there was revival magic, I need to go out there and cry out. I need to go out there and do certain things. I need to go ahead and be here with you guys. We need to go and see if they're actually dead. We need to go do certain things. I'm trying to think like Rudius. What would Rudius do in a situation where you've just learned all of this? Time to learn is necromancy a thing in this world or not?
そうですか。
Nah, okay.
いや、
I thought it.
ミミルはともかく、サラははぐれただけです。今からでも探しに行けばまだ。
こんな吹雪の中行ったって全滅するだけさ。せめて雪が止まないと。
やはりあの時、私が見捨てなければ。
私らだって最終的にうなずいてここまで来たんだ。同罪だよ。
ちなみにどこではぐれたんですか。
西のトリーアの森だよ。吹雪で視界が効かなくなってスノーバッファローの群れに襲われたってわけさ。
そうですか。大変でしたね。じゃあ僕は失礼します。
This is something I think no show can ever take away from Mushoku Tensei. The imagery, the solace, the fact that you can genuinely see Rudy going through this and it feels fucking cold. Like it feels isolated. You can feel his state, how he's going through this. Like Mushoku Tensei, in terms of world building, bar none. I don't think anyone can really like touch like the world building in this aspect. If we're going to talk about his own mind space and how this might look like, right? Beautiful symbolism and aspects like that. And Mushoku Tensei is almost like repeatedly showcasing elements and moments like this where we're getting a great insight into his mind, where we're getting great insight into how cold the environment is and how that affects our characters. And that's wow. Wow. For Rudius to do this though, that's huge. For Rudius to be able to go ahead and do this though, and to step out and, you know, he's gonna go try and go find her when others have given up. What does that say about Rudy? People call him half-assed, but yet he's out here, you know, risking his life to try and find Sarah. And he's doing it alone. Like, people might have their own thoughts and beliefs about him, but at the end of the day, he's still doing whatever he thinks is right, right? Despite what people tell him to do.
何が目的だよ。お前やることが中途半端なんだよ。
本当に俺は何をやっているのだろうか。自己満足でもしたいのか。どうすれば俺は満足できる？そりゃ自分のやり方でサラを見つけた時だ。そのサラが生きていようが死んでいようが関係ない。今俺は成果が欲しいのだ。あるいは他人を見捨てないという選択を取りたいだけなのかもしれない。エリスに捨てられた俺だから。
That's an attachment issue. This is what he just explained right here, right now, is an attachment issue, and he's stating that he wants to feel accomplished. He wants to not leave someone the way that Eris left them. He's so on and so forth. Like, this is legitimately how individuals with an anxious attachment start working. They'll do even small, like, menial tasks in order to feel accomplished. This is, in case you guys don't know, kinks are developed by many ways, shapes, or forces, but there are a lot of people who just want to be told, hey, you did a good job today, or like that good boy, good girl redeem, which a lot of people love because they need to feel a sense of accomplishment in some way, shape, or form, right? Through that, though, the reason why I'm touching into this is, let's take this even a step further. Hold on. I'm bringing this up, guys. His monologue is actually really, really impactful, and I think the fact that he's stating this out there is huge. When did Eris leave him? When did Eris leave him? He was around 12 to 18, right? He was around here. He was adolescence. Who am I and where am I going? Who am I and where am I going? The key questions to be asked. Failure leads to role confusion and a weak sense of self. This is the major trauma that he's working towards right now. When did the displacement incident happen? He was 6 to 11, right? How can I be good? Success leads to a sense of competence. Failure leads to a sense of inferiority. So he's already dealing with two major themes inside of himself. He probably doesn't feel like he's up to doing certain things. Right? Like he probably feels inferior at times, right, to everyone else, because if he was actually good, Eris would have stayed with him. Eris would have been there for him. Eris would have allowed, like, you know, and we can even go further back, which we can talk about, like Paul forcing him to leave to the capital and whatnot, but or forcing him to be Eris's tutor and whatnot. But through this, these are two major questions that he's asking himself. How can I be good? Who am I? And where am I going? Well, the sense of inferiority was also Eris, but this also comes in through this, right? Because inferiority is not just a complex of power, it's a complex of self. If I was strong enough, Eris would have stayed with me. If I was good enough, Eris would have stayed with me. That is a sense of inferiority that comes up as well. Who am I? Where am I going? It's another big aspect that is very obvious, right? Role confusion and a weak sense of self. And when we're feeling weak, when we don't really like understand why we feel the way that we do, we latch on to aspects to try and go ahead and fill that need. Small senses of accomplishment to try and feel okay, right? And that's inferiority complex due to its past self. Exactly, Masha. And that is fucking like imperative. It is so important to talk about, and I think as this shows is adventuring into this monologue is
それだけなのかもしれない。だが見つけてどうする？わからない。
Damn, dude.
こんなことをしたところで何になる？俺は何がしたい？ 全く意味がわからない。
Oh.
みみる。
Oh.
サラ。
サラとはそんなに仲良かったわけでもないけど、この間の彼女はそれほどトゲトゲしくはなかったな。
Mimir se fue a dormir. A mimir. But no, I'm bringing this up because this is a semblance of also closure and grief, right? Even unbeknownst to him, even if, because propinquity takes effect no matter what you do. You might be working with someone for a long time, and slowly but surely you start to like them. Not in a romantic way, but could even be just as friendships. That's because of propinquity. And when we're looking at a concept like this, right? We all of us in some way, shape, or form want closure. And for him, does he want to know if people left him the same way Eris left him, or Eris left the group or whatever? Or does he want to find closure? And that's another aspect to think about it like this, right? He's giving off this monologue, but yet he's still striding forward to find a sense of accomplishment. But for me, what I'm noticing is this feels like a sense of closure to not get what Eris had done to him, right? Because Eris just left, and for him, that left him wandering endlessly. He doesn't even know himself. Yeah, probably he doesn't even know himself. Exactly. Which is why it's like throwing this out there is like, he saw that Mimir's dead, and for Sarah, it's like, you have to burn corpses of monsters and people, or they wake up as zombies. Oh shit! I did not know that. Oh, ooh. Hey, yo. Hey, yo. Take her and run, bro. Take her and run. Book it. Oh, dude. Oh, dude. Ah. I'm glad they're warming up, though.
Ne, そろそろいい？
あ、はい。ありがとうございます。
何よ？
Rudy! Rudy! I did not expect the thank you very much. Oh, fucking Rudy. Every time, dude. Muchas gracias. I'm healing you, but I'm still gonna say thank you. Fuck, Rudy. That's so... Gracias por la comida. No, but this is so awesome, though. It's great that we're seeing, even in moments like that, like for him, it might not be a joke, but for us, that like moment of levity that might come through with that, like, oh, typical Rudy's or whatnot, because that semblance of his personality starting to come back, right? There are moments of his personality that are starting to shine through. That like even though he's working on himself, it just doesn't completely go away. Seeing the fact that he's open to still being a little bit pervy, a little bit jokey, a little bit whatever, huge, man. It's an honest and polite man here, man.
俺なんて言ってんのさ。
足何かおかしくはありませんか？
What are you thinking?
大丈夫。 もう痛くないし。ほら。
ちょっと違和感があるんですが、何かおかしいことありませんかね。
どこもおかしくないけど、あんたがここに一人でいるのはおかしいね。
いや、それはなんとなくティモシーたちに行方不明になったって聞いて。
みんなは無事なの？
ミミルは死にました。
Fuck, dude. Bonfire, that it's a bit of both, because our core schema doesn't go away, right? So our core schema of like, I'm gonna back it up just a little bit here. Our core schema of like, is that really pervy Rudy, or is that like the mask Rudy? It's a bit of both, because that mask is something that he established a long time ago, right? Uh-oh. Something's off with that leg. Hold on, we're backing it up just a little bit.
何かおかしいことありませんかね。
どこもおかしくないけど、あんたがここに一人でいるのはおかしいね。
いや、それはなん。
It better not have been one of those fucking hentai dojin trees that implants a seed in you and you get a full hentai scene out of it, you know, and fucking roots start sprouting out of her or some shit. Because otherwise, I'm gonna lose my fucking shit. Like, this world is just not meant to be in, man. Yeah, bruh. Ed got idea. No, guys, I'm just stating. I'm just saying.
なんとなくティモシーたちに行方不明になったって聞いて。
みんなは無事なの？
ミミルは死にました。
Yeah, that's huge, dude. And she's wearing his robe. Rudy. Dojin circle. And trying to qualify as a Dojin circle resident. Bro, okay, I'm going to be straight up about it. This might be just myself, but there's nothing hotter than, like, at least for me, than a girl wearing, like, your clothes and stuff, man. Rudy, my man, is out here doing God's work, protecting himself. You know, girl got his clothes ripped. Yeah, exactly. But Rudy's all being polite, being super nice, and, you know, huge. That's why I'm like, Psycultured dojins. Ooh. Boyfriend t-shirt, right?
じゃあ帰りましょうか。
Oh. Oh.
あのさ、嬉しかったよ。助けに来てくれて。
Oh, that smile. Oh. Oh.
今までの行動すべてが許されたかのような気持ちになった。救われた。
But why? He says, I feel like I've been forgiven for everything that I've done. Why do you think that is? He is winning, son. But why do you think he feels this way? Aside from feeling accomplished, there's a bigger reason at play here that happens to a lot of people. It could be forgiven for carrying the weight of guilt, right? You've saved a damsel. There's more to it than just that, right? So the reason why I'm saying is, yes, he does feel accomplished. Yes, he did save her. Yes, there was a lot of guilt implications and stuff that he was working towards. But why does he feel saved the moment that, like, she smiles at him like this? Projection. Because there has been some projection that's been happening internally as well. That there's been a little bit of what did you do in the first place, Rudy? There's been a little bit of projection that's been happening, which is, you know, projecting, for example, aspects. I'm not saying Eris entirely, but aspects of Eris onto Sarah. He was powerful enough to save her. He was powerful enough to be there for her. He was powerful enough to do certain things. He was powerful enough to, you know, acquiesce and be the person, the kind person that he needed to be. And he got that smile. He said, like, you know, I think we got Paul at home, and he feels guilt for not giving it his all. Right. And that's another big aspect to do that. Like, he's also forgiving himself, and that's a big aspect to throw in there, which is, I guess, for you guys as well. Have you forgiven yourselves? And by this, I mean by actions that you've done. Right? Have you forgiven yourself for feeling the way that you feel? Because that's another big aspect of forgiveness that he needs to go through. Have you forgiven yourself for, you know, no, you see, and that's a big thing is a lot of people hold on to our feelings and we're not really able to go ahead and forgive ourselves for various reasons because we often feel as though those feelings are true and valid, like, you know, that we have to feel these things and there are weights and there are anchors and, you know, we can't like feel or be forgiven. Back when I was depressed, helping people in a way made me feel like this, like my life was worth something, which saves me, I guess. Yeah, absolutely, sir. Sir Talk, dude, absolutely. Like saving others can help us feel a little bit more. Sounds like we're taking Paul's words about not doing enough to heart. But it's not doing enough. It's, you know, he wasn't able to get Eris back, but he is able to get Sarah back. There's all these layers of projection, of defense mechanisms, of coping skills, of 101 things being thrown out there that it's important and it's huge, and it's a lot of pain, and it's a lot like, is he fully healed? No, right? Because forgiveness is another step in the process of healing. Forgiveness doesn't mean that you're completely healed. Forgiveness is like one of the next steps that you need to take to start healing and start growing from there as well. Like huge, man.
おかしなことに、彼女を救ったはずの俺の方がそのように思ってしまったのだ。
スザンヌ！
サラ、どうなってんだい？今から探しに行こうってところだったのに。
ルーデウスが助けてくれたんだ。
まさか、私らの話を聞いてすぐに出発したってことかい？
いや、もう。
そんな無茶してあんたまで死んだらどうするつもりだったんだ。
ちょっとスザンヌ、そんな言い方は。
And now she's stepping in. Oh my god. And now she's stepping in and defending Rudy. Oh no. Now she's stepping in, boys. Sarah's being fucking based. Oh no. I love that fuck that Sarah's here, man. Is this a healthy attachment for Sarah? Here's the thing. Savior complex comes into play. Oh my god, wait a minute. Savior complex now comes into play. Yeah, there's a pedestal being built here. There's an aspect of savior complex that is going to start being like built here. Oh, he's my savior, so on and so forth. Red flags. I'm getting the red flag alert here, guys. I'm getting a huge fucking, like, if I had a red flag parade, I'd fucking throw it up right now. If for whatever reason, say that they start to get like flirty with one another, they decide to take it wherever else. Rudy thinks that he's possibly healed. Rudy tries to do something with Sarah. It doesn't work. What the fuck does that do to Sarah? What does this do to Sarah? If Rudy has not fully healed and say that he's having physical functions, physical dysfunctions from the trauma that he's still going towards, what does this do? Like, if the person that saved you, the person that you've been like flirting with or whatever, the person that you've been there with, right? So on and so forth, you put on a pedestal, this is your savior, this is someone that you care about, this is whatever, and say that like you're over here, like you're trying to get along with them and it doesn't work. What does that do for you? How would you feel? How would you feel if they were like, nah, man, sorry, can't do it, like we can't? That would be like a literal, like, you would feel like, so then you don't like me, I'm the issue. I see. It was me. Wow. Okay. A lot of like, oof. I can't believe the dude whose name is. It would be devastating. Is she gonna feel jealous of the holy relic? Right. Like the fact that like this holy relic he carries with him all the time, and yet like, you know, he wouldn't be able to do. Oh my god, dude, this is layered. Or even take it a step further, if you really want to talk about like the like social compass here, the power compass, which is, oh, you're a noble and you don't want to sleep with me because what, I'm normal individual. There's so many things that could come into play, that would come into a thought process in here, like fucking huge, man. It would be fucking huge. Because imagine it, right? If you are just like an everyday average person, right? and this person has a full name and nobility, and he rejects you, like while you guys are about to get it on, what would you feel? I would feel like, holy fuck, okay, it's 101 reasons, and that might be one of them. You might only want to be with nobility, and you'll use, like it's everything. I'm putting myself in Sarah's perspective, and I'm like, fuck, dude, this would affirm a lot of like a lot of pain, a lot of trauma, personal trauma that comes through with it. And for Rudius, if we were to flip it and say that this is a scenario that is to happen in the future, Rudius himself, let's talk about that. It would be also feelings of rejection. He would probably flee, or let's be honest, he would probably flee. Either that group, right, with Sarah would flee because all of a sudden Sarah's gone through like some embarrassment. She's going through trauma because of Rudius. So they would get up and leave. Or Rudius would flee because that's a common for him. And what's his next step? To try and flee somewhere else where he doesn't have to reinvent the wheel again, you know? Ooh, oof, oof, oof. I mean, even if you try to talk it out, like the damage can already be done. Like it's hard to heal someone after you've dejected from them, and after that the solution is there, you know. But Rudius, yeah, that's oof. He might try to talk it out.
確かにそうだね。ちょっと気が動転しちまって。まずはサラを助けてくれてありがとうって言わなきゃいけなかったね。
ルーデウス。ありがとう。本当にありがとう。この恩をどう返せばいいやら、何でも言ってほしい。
いえ、礼には及びません。僕もあなた方には何かと助けてもらってますので。
それは本心だ。俺はなんだかんだ言ってカウンターアローの面々にいろんなところで助けられてきた気がする。
だからこれで貸し借りなしということにしましょう。
そうか。そうですね。じゃあこれからもよろしくということで。
はい、これからもよろしくお願いします。
Bruh, beautiful fucking writing.
送っていこう。
ルーデウス。じゃあまた。
今日はゆっくり休んでください。
Oh, dude. And she's holding it. What did she say? Did she just say Daisuke or some shit? Hold on. Hold on. What the fuck did you just say? Still wearing his coat? Oh, arigato. Oh, dude. My heart. Lip reading now. Arigato. Fuck, bro. There's something I want to point out, because this episode was actually very beautifully done in this way. How does this adventure start, guys? How does this adventure start? The adventure to this whole thing starts like this. The adventure to this whole journey that we've been on starts with him taking out the panties out of his altar, and him using the panties him using the panties as his, defense mechanism, literally like Roxy guiding him out of the gates and whatnot. And finally, at the very end, he's at least able to go ahead and put them back in their shrine. That is so fucking beautiful. The fact that they looped it around like that, and that they took elements of, like, not just Paul's story previously in season 1, but they used even like the very beginning of this episode to loop it all the way back around. That's wow. That's actually really, really. I wish Mushoku Tensei episodes were like 40 minutes long. I'm not gonna lie. I wish Mushoku Tensei episodes were like 40 plus minutes long. Like, give us like arcane level, episodes, because it's like it's so fucking good. Yeah, it's so good. 40-minute episodes would be with the same number of episodes. Yeah. If it's 40 minutes, we just get opening and ending separate. like that. This is why I bring it up, right? Like, I genuinely, there was some transition. I'm gonna state my thoughts before like SB and Nat come in. There was some moments where it felt a little rushed, like just like it was like cutting, like say from here to like okay here. It told a good narrative overall in this episode. Like I think it told a good narrative, like because of course you can't get everything from the novels onto screen, right? But there was some weird transitions. There was some weird transitions that happened that were just like okay, I'm still with you on this. As an anime only viewer, because I've not read the light novels for this, like from season 2 on, I've not read any of the light novels. So it felt like just weird transitions, right? There was a handful of skips, right? But it didn't feel like, as an anime only person, it for me it didn't completely detract from everything. It was like, oh, that was weird. That was a little weird. Apparently, there's a lot of dialogue in cut boss scenes, but it was just like okay, so I feel like there was more here, but we're just skipping along. That's sort of what it felt like for me. It didn't just feel uh, like if I would have known, I honestly probably would have been a little mad, you know. If I was like a reader and I sort of know all the cut content, I probably would have been a little like, "Ugh, they need to slow it down. They need to whatever." But it just felt like it was speeding along, and like the transitions were just like, okay, we're going here, 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 we're going here. Instead of like, hey, you know what? This is why this is proceeding. But it is what it is. I mean, it is what it is. My main thing is it still hit on the important aspects. It could have maybe have been fleshed out a little bit more. That's my only critique that I have on this episode. However, did it show Rudius healing? Yes. Is Rudius completely healed? No. Forgiveness does not mean that you've healed. Forgiveness of yourself for being open to like, wow, I felt like I needed that, does not mean like that you've healed completely. It means that you're taking steps in healing, right? And I feel all the concepts make sense for an adaptation. There was no way, right? There was unless they were given like 40 or an hour long episode per episode. There's no way that they would have been able to show everything. And even then, there would have still been a lot of content. But guys, what an awesome episode! I still think it was awesome to see the dynamics between Rudy and Sarah grow, and the entire group and Rudy and like his place and everything. Really, really interesting stuff. I love how this season is going so far. And is it weird for me to say I'm excited for the school arc that you guys have been talking about? Is it really, really weird for me to say that? Like you guys have mentioned the school arc over and over again, and how like this anime does school justice, and I'm actually really excited about it. Like I'm excited about like whatever this school arc might bring and how we get there. I don't know anything as to how we get there, but I'm really, really fucking excited to see like how like the journey to get there and what this school arc means and everything. All right, everyone. Well, look at who we have here. We have the wonderful, the beautiful, the one of a kind, the Riz Master himself, SB. What's up, SB? How you doing?
I'm mighty fine this day or night, depending on where you are.
Right. And then we have the other one, you know, the queen herself, the beauty of beauties here, the individual who might steal our hearts if we're not careful, because she's already stolen mine and SB's. Natalie herself, guys, drop some love for Natalie. Natalie,
that's some hype there.
I have to hype both of you up. You guys are amazing. So why don't we get started with this episode? First off, what you guys think?
I liked the episode. I feel like there was some room for improvement. So I'll lay it out in simple terms that some scenes felt a little bit clunky as far as like animations go, but I feel as far as what was covered and how it was covered, I think it was very well done. I mean, I expected the opening scene where the music plays to cut some stuff, which was mostly that scene was where, and I said this last episode as well to some degree, that there's a scene where Rudy would do all these odd jobs in the snow and he'd meet some people, and one of them is that he meets a girl and she's got frostbite and it's on her foot, but in the anime it's her knee. Now that girl does play a significant role later on. not going to say what, but I actually do have a feeling they're going to skip her point in the story. And when that does happen, then I can fully explain it next week, what her role was and why she was important. But I noticed Rudy healed her knee instead of the foot, and instead of going to the back alley with her friends, it was just one boy there, which the reason why that scene is significant to some degree, not the spoiler part, is because in Mushoku Tensei, hiring a healer is actually quite expensive.
Oh.
I can make an American joke here, but I'm not going to.
Do it.
Mushoku Tensei's medical system is very much like America's. It's expensive. So
we do love to make those jokes.
I know.
I mean, it's true though.
It never gets old. It is. So because of that, the girl actually gets really scared and she freaks out. And then Rudy reassures her. He's like, "Oh no, it's okay. I'm just, it's a free heal, frostbite," and then she's off. That plays a role later on. Rudy's generosity and kindness plays a role later on. But for some reason, they really prune that down, which I feel like they're just going to skim over some stuff in the next episode. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of criticisms that this episode was rushed. I can understand some of the scenes where it felt a little bit jagged. But as far as cut content goes, it was pretty much, it went over all the major keynotes. Some scenes was a little bit snipped, but all the major notes were hit really well. And I liked how they did the opening song because they didn't need to show Rudy doing all the odd jobs. Most of it was just him plowing snow. And when he was doing that big glow thing, that was him pumping mana into a device that melts snow. And there was this big thing about like the guy's like, "Oh, you don't have to do heaps, just do a little bit," because everyone assumes mages don't have much mana. And Rudy's just like, "Watch me, bro." Boom, and then melts everything. And then the guy's like, "Oh, well, you've done your task. It's simple, easy, off you go." And that's kind of how Rudy does. He uses the training or the tasks as a training method, as well as a way of preoccupying himself, which you did note in your stream as well, as the training, the jobs is a way of like preoccupying yourself when you're going through a bad breakup.
Right. But like something that stands out for me, and I kind of wonder if people may have gotten the wrong impression from this, like that Rudy has healed when in fact like he's on his journey through healing, just because of like the whole he's faking niceness. And even at the very end, like I'm like separating myself from like the psychologist point of view and just like a anime normie out there that's watching this. I sort of wonder if like this is something that comes in where it's like they're rushing his healing journey when in fact it's like, no, he's still pretty much in it. And like at least that's what sort of stood out for me, is like my man is still healing, and at the very end that's another step towards healing. It doesn't mean that he's fully healed. What do you guys think on that?
Definitely not. And anyone who did think that probably also thought at the end of season 1, when he starts moving forward and he's thinking about Zenith and all of that was, well, he's got a motivation now, he's going to be all right. And then you go straight into the depressed sorcerer bit that we saw last week. So this is like, yeah, you see him opening the window and he's like, "I'm going to sleep better tonight," and all this sort of thing. What you'll see for the rest of this arc will show that if you believe that at the end of this episode, that he's better now and that was all rushed through, you won't believe it after this arc, It's certainly not rushing through him recovering at all, because this episode was not the end of that.
Which I'm glad. And I guess I'll throw up this next question for you. I'm literally gonna hold on. I'm gonna pull up on the side because I did take a couple of notes here. So let me pull this aside and let me pull up my notes because I do have a couple questions for you. So I just got to pull up the episode and then the questions that I have for you. See, I came prepared. I was preparing for this as well. I was like, okay, had to make sure to list a couple key questions for you guys, which is, we see the distortion that is happening when it comes to. I love the way that this episode started and ended with the whole panning, taking the panties out of the altar, and then at the very end putting the panties back into his like sacred altar that he has there. So my question for you guys is, seeing the way that he's idolizing and he has literally Roxy in an altar like this, you guys don't have to, it's not really spoilers, or I guess if it's spoilers, don't answer or find the way to curtail around it. But if it comes down to this, is is there going to be a situation where Roxy overrides his boundaries like this, and he has to go ahead and either his anxious attachment comes in where he has to acquiesce with it, or be okay, like just be okay with whatever the situation is, because Roxy's now in a huge position of power because of his glorification of her.
Obviously you're asking about whether something will happen or not, and we can't really say without spoilers whether it will or not. But in a broad sense, it's difficult to explain.
Mm-hmm.
But when obviously it's not really a spoiler that the characters will be reunited at some point. You know, I mean,
Right.
There wouldn't be any point to her being in the story and being then maintaining what she's doing in the story as we go on if we were never going to see her again. So I don't think that's a spoiler. And when that situation arises, I wouldn't say that Roxy in any way uses that kind of the fact that he does revere her, basically. I think essentially Roxy doesn't really realize that he does, even though he will say that he does. You know, he literally calls her a goddess and god and things like that. Roxy's very insecure and she doesn't really believe him, you know, much in the same way that Rudius doesn't believe that Eris looks up to him. It doesn't really come up in that way, if you know what I mean.
Well, let me throw out this scenario at you then, Nat, which is we are in a world that's filled with a bunch of nobles, and we all know how nobles can be, right? So what would stop, say, a political marriage for Roxy in a situation like this?
Well, Roxy doesn't really have any status.
Well, what about pressure in terms of like, okay, so I'm just gonna assume that like Nat, you're Roxy, right? And I'm like, hey Nat, giving you a heads up, the kingdom halfway across the world wants to take you on, like literally keep you there by marrying you off to whatever, so that way you become one of their, I guess like water class teachers or whatever. And I know that like, you know, SB means the world to you, so I'm giving you a week to pack your things up. So what do you do?
But who could force Roxy into that? Because political marriages are usually arranged by the parents. And Roxy's parents aren't really going to be approached by anybody like that.
I mean,
and so nobody else can really push Roxy into doing anything.
I mean, what if she got kidnapped by that creepy guy again?
Well, she'd just get rescued, wouldn't she?
Rudy will come to her rescue, and they'll live happily ever after.
But I mean,
just
what
like
if we...
I would come to your rescue, SB.
Aw. But what if we flip that? SB, I think we'd all fly over to you. We'd find you wherever you are. Oh, but like, what if it was in terms of loneliness, not necessarily just political marriage, but what if you were like if people start instilling this idea of like, well, you're gonna be alone forever. So do you want a partner like me, or do you want a partner like SB, or do you want a partner like anyone in the chat? Would you feel pressured?
Nah, you need to be careful. He's looking for the answers. He's getting there.
Yeah, I know, because there is a straightforward answer to this about what Roxy would do, but we can't give it to you. So instead,
all I'll say is you're getting one, Ed, but you're still a little bit off.
Okay. I mean, it is what it is. That's a good one. Anyway, we'll diverge off this topic. Nat, how like for you though, like how'd you feel like genuinely about this entire like the pacing? Did that like throw you off, or were you okay with it?
For the most part, I was actually okay with it, but I think that is partly because I know how this part fits into the whole series of events. This was never going to be the most dramatic, everybody's favorite episode. It's building up to what will be in the next one. And it's parts of the story that needed to be told, and it hit all the right beats. Maybe it didn't spend as much time on certain things as it could have, but there was no information that you really needed to continue with the story that was particularly missing from it. And honestly, I think that if they hadn't paced it the way they did and they'd gone for 2 episodes to cover this, I
Would have been
think
too
people,
slow.
yeah, and I think anime onlys might have been a bit frustrated because I think a lot of people, with this being an arc that's just Rudius with new characters, a lot of people might be thinking, you know, well, when do we get to see what's going on with the characters we got invested in season 1, other than Rudy? You know, what's with all these new characters? I'm not feeling especially attached to them. It's because the focus is very much Rudy's mindset, and the things that are going on in it are more like happening to him than, yeah, these are characters we're going to just come to care about as much as we care about Eris or Paul or whoever, you know. So for me, the pacing, it did feel a little bit janky in places. We did talk about this a lot on our own stream. The Treant fight when he rescues Sarah, that could have just done with, we were saying, just even a few more seconds to just kind of explain how he actually got her out of it.
Yeah, because I was watching it again and I noticed like they do a close up on his face when he uses the fire, and then they do a side angle when he grabs her and pushes her into the water. And I just feel like they did that deliberately so they could cut back on the animations, and I just feel like a couple of different angles, maybe a couple more seconds longer would have just been nice for smoothness, because as much as I don't expect that to be some long epic fight, it just felt a little bit too clunky and fast. But I mean, that's minor issues that I had with the episode. Overall pace in itself was pretty good for me because, and this is the question I want to ask you, Ed, is what do you think of these characters? Do you think they're going to play a long-term role in Rudy's life in a meaningful and impactful way?
Do I think they're going to stay long-term with him? Probably not.
Yeah.
And that's just me being 100% realistic, because what is being set up here in a way is like Rudy is, in a way, when we go through, like I was mentioning this, when we go through a really, really bad breakup, we have to relearn some certain social skills, coping skills, how to go out into the world, how to reintroduce yourselves and be in a healthy environment, all of these things. And he's learning it from this group. He's learning it from doing these medial tasks of going out there and, like, you know, healing kids and, you know, pumping mana into this thing to, like, take out the snow. So he's like, even though for a lot of people it's like, oh, he's doing nothing, it's like he's taking these small tasks to start healing himself. For these characters though, in particular, at the moment, what I see is like he's using them as a way to grow and heal from it as well, and be okay with the idea of having a support network, of being open to talking with others. Does it mean that he's fully healed? No, right? Because no one just fully heals overnight like that. But is like, do we use others to heal in the process? Absolutely. Will they probably stay long term? What I'm going to say is no. And this is just me throwing this out there, because Sarah just developed a weird savior complex, right? After this, and then this is one like sort of where I ended the episode in, because it kind of stuck out to me, which is at the very end, she's finally stepping up for Rudy and she's being there for Rudy, and you can tell that this attachment is growing and growing. How would you feel if the person that like saved you, right, that you start developing feelings for and whatnot, dejects you, and you aren't able to do anything with them? Say that you're getting it on and all of a sudden they stop. What would that do to you? That is a question that I asked.
I don't know. I never really registered it as her developing a savior complex. I think she'd been warming to him already. And the fact that he went out of his way and, as far as she knows, you know, put his own life at risk, her party had to leave. They don't know that Rudius can do magic that controls the weather and things like that, you know.
Right.
They didn't know how he would have a better chance of actually making it through the blizzard than most people, and so on. So I don't know that she only likes him because he saved her life, or she's only warmed to him because he saved her life. I think it's more what that gesture represents to her that means she can trust him, because that was really her issue before. She just doesn't trust other people outside of her like found family of Counter Arrow, and she'd already been starting to warm up to him. I think that it just kind of, it was the thing that made her go from tsundere to dere, you know, like I don't think that it's a particularly unhealthy thing that she is grateful to him. And I also think just because she does have that response to it doesn't mean she's necessarily going to be like blindly in love with him now and just like will accept anything.
Right. So I'll jump in real quick and I'll clarify this before I give it to you, SB, which is, I don't think like, you know, for savior complex, I'm not saying like it's going to be toxic or unhealthy, because the savior complex just means that there's a difference in a power dynamic that is being set. So like if I step in and say that SB is not breathing and I do some CPR and I give him like mouth to mouth, you know, like the beautifulness out of that, you know, it's not going to be immediate like, oh, I love you, Ed. It's going to be like, hey, you know what? You're a true bro. I like, you know, we start building off of that. We start like, there's a little bit more of a warmness that comes from that environment where it's like, he's down to help me from that. So it establishes.
There's definitely a bond that you have with people who help you, and you know.
If Ed gives me a mouth to mouth, maybe my Pepe might get excited.
Hey yo,
I gotta. It's a running joke. I said I would do it as soon as I got on your stream, and so my follow-up question is: do you name your body parts?
Do I name my body?
This came up on my stream because you know how Rudius names his biceps and his legs when he's working out, and he's got Hulk and Hercules as his biceps. And so I asked my chat, or our chat rather, it was actually on SB's channel, so it was his chat that we can blame for this. We asked the chat, you know, do you name your body parts? And some of their answers were interesting, but the most interesting answer of all was SB's. Do you want to take it from here, babe?
So this is a story. I named my third leg Peppy. The reason why it's called Peppy is because the lawnmower was named after Peppy, and it took a bit of effort to get it revving. But when you got it revving, it was good. It was ready to go. It fired it up and off it went, strong and steady. But it took a bit of effort. And so, for some reason, when I was younger, I named it that. So now Nat knows. So now every time a joke comes up, I'm just going to go, yeah, my Peppy's getting a little bit fired up. And so anyone that understands that, it's going to know that I'm talking about down below.
But what's even worse is in the gap between our stream and this stream, I was just I had Discord open, but I wasn't on the chat with him anymore. I took a break to watch his video, so I knew what he'd said in it before we went on this stream. And he just randomly sends me a picture of someone revving up a lawnmower in their pants. And I was drinking like from a big bottle of sparkling water at the time that it popped up on my screen. And I laughed so hard that the sparkling water came out of my nose. And you know when fizzy stuff comes out of your nose because you're laughing, it kind of hurts. I was like, I can't even, just don't. But also the way that he phrased it on our stream, it was just like he didn't tell the whole thing of like, yeah, you know, it takes a while to get going. He just went, it was the lawnmower that we had and it didn't work. So it's just like
put two and two together.
Right. Oh, you're Pepe. Dude, it is what
actually,
it is.
What I was thinking about was that, you know, you said when I said, oh, but which body part? You said the most inappropriate one. I was thinking about this. And is that the most inappropriate part of a man to talk about? Because what I think is, you can have lots of perfectly sensible conversations about peens. You know, you can talk about health issues and things like that. So personally, I think the most inappropriate part of a man is the taint. You can't have any kind of sensible conversation about that body part.
It's me and I are in deep reflection here. Hold on.
And I'm sure nobody names that.
Well, depends. SB, are you freaky? Do you like anything being done to you in that area or not?
No, I'm just saying, I'm not saying that it would be inappropriate to want anything done to that area. I'm just saying that when you say the most inappropriate body part, it's not, because you can have plenty of like perfectly professional conversations about the peen, but not the taint. There's no like normal conversation you're going to have that's appropriate, that you're going to like teach children in a classroom or something that involves that. So that's my theory. on the most inappropriate part of a body to name.
I mean, being realistic, it's like, yeah, we literally have words for pretty much everything, and for taint, it is kind of a sensitive topic. Yeah, you silenced everyone. Like you brought that on, and I'm like reflecting here, and I'm like, wait a minute, you might be right. Like
it's like proper shower thoughts, isn't it? But...
proper shower thoughts.
I mean, I'm not really scared about talking about Pepe, so.
Yeah, I'm glad you're not, because we got so much gold out of it.
Oh yeah, about the story and the girl that saw it, and then I flopped it out in school.
You what?
So to retell that story,
sharer when it comes to stories.
don't ever say that I won't do something, because I will do it. So when I was in high school, a lot of guys just had an obsession over our Pepe sizes, and they automatically always assumed the nerdy guys had the small ones, the small peckers.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this one girl, she's like, oh, yours is probably small. And I'm like, yeah, sure it is. And then she's like, oh, like, the conversation basically came up about me showing it. And she's like, oh, you won't show it, you won't show it. And so I did. I just flopped it out in front of her. And then she just started going around the school telling everyone that my Pepe was massive.
Oh.
just because she was like, oh, you won't show it. And I was like, there you go.
Well,
see, but you've just told me that now, that it's massive in the opinion of this girl, and that goes against your own advice to tell girls that it's small.
I mean, I guess
he gave this advice.
I guess maybe the word Pepe still is relevant. It takes a bit of time, but once it's excited, it's ready to go. It just I need the right MILF content.
Wait, when you flopped it out,
I'm the right
were you hard or not? Because that makes all the difference, man.
So wait, what was the question, Ed?
The question is, when you flopped it out, are you a shorer or are you a grower? I think first off, right? Oh.
Both?
Oh, okay. I mean, there you go. Because the question was, when you flopped it out, were you hard or not? Because that makes a world of difference.
No, I wasn't.
Damn, and she said you were huge. Look at SB go. Look at SB
He must be a shower, not a grower.
Yeah,
Right.
it wasn't. I remember it was threw it up. I mean, I was at school. I wasn't excited, and most of the chicks there weren't exactly, well, except those two girls in the library. Those were nice girls. And then we're talking about compliments as well, because there's always this stigma of like, all these memes are like, oh, a girl gets a compliment, she doesn't care, but when a guy gets a compliment, he'll remember it for a lifetime. And I was like, oh yeah, I still remember the time that there was these two girls that came into the library during chess club and were like standing behind me. And they gave me a bit of a massage on my back. I didn't say that on the stream, but they did. And then they were like, oh, you're cute. And I still remember it to this day.
I mean, because you are cute, SB. What are we downplaying here? Like, one look at you and I'm already like, ooh.
Actually, my biggest complaint when I did a face reveal was that apparently I wasn't ugly.
Oh, I thought it'd be that you look
I
like
don't know
Chibi.
why anyone would be disappointed that you're not ugly.
Well,
I still don't get that. Like,
Right.
why that would be a disappointment?
I
Like,
think they wanted to be able to like bully
they just
me
wanted
or
to
make
hate
it
you,
snarky
didn't they?
laugh. Yeah, and I was like, face reveal, and they're like, oh, you're not ugly, damn, I can't pay you out. I was like, sorry to disappoint.
You're like, it is what it is.
It is what
So-
it is.
Well, I mean, through that, because Nat, I know that you've done a face reveal. Did you get any reaction when you first did your first face reveal?
Well, I haven't done one on YouTube, so I've only done it on Twitter. And I had already, I mean, when I first started my YouTube channel, I'd already been using that Twitter account for my books. So I had already posted pictures before, you know, just I'd been using it as basically my main channel, but also as a writer. So there didn't seem to be much point in suddenly stopping ever posting pictures because they already existed on the internet for that account. And So I never really saw it as I did a face reveal. And obviously every time I do post a picture on Twitter, now there'll be new people who've never seen one before and think it's a face reveal, you know. I won't do one on YouTube until like a big milestone, like maybe 100,000, like we were talking about last week, when we both promised to wear the maid outfits. But yeah, I don't think I'd do it on YouTube just because it doesn't really fit the aesthetic of my channel, you know, and I don't really like being on camera anyway. So it would have to be a big milestone or celebration or something. And then hopefully people wouldn't be mean to me because, you know.
The best part is I know what she's wearing and she hasn't said.
Yeah, because we're not that kind of stream.
We're not
it's not
that
a hot
kind
tub
of
stream.
I mean,
it's just it's very hot here at the moment.
She's in a bikini.
Yeah, it's very hot here at the moment. And yeah, I'm just wearing a bikini because I went to the pool and I didn't change. And what's the point in changing?
Use your imagination, fellas. Use your imagination.
And I was wearing a bikini the whole time last week as well. I just didn't tell SB till after we were off air.
It's not that kind of stream. Oh, pizza. Oh, you're revving him up. Look at it.
That's why I'm the one that's not on camera, you know?
Right. Oh man. I'll be honest. I've been thinking about getting like a little kiddie pool and then saying it's a hot tub stream. But hey, more power to you. I mean, whatever's most relaxing. It's fucking hot here too, I'm not gonna lie.
But yeah, I mean, to keep it on Mushoku Tensei,
sure.
Is it common to name your body parts?
Yeah.
I've never named my body parts.
It's actually really common for people to name their body parts. There's like 101 names that people have named their, like, you know, their vaginas or their dicks or whatever, right? For example, as cringy as it was, I'm gonna be straight up about it, right? I had a nickname throughout, I guess, high school and college, which was Godfingers, right? Because I learned how to, which was because I learned a lot of like percussion and piano, and let's just say I'm pretty good with my, like, pretty dextile with my hands and with my fingers and stuff, right? So like I was really like, people give names to your parts, and at the same time you can come up with names for your own parts as well. I was really into Metal Gear, so at a time, right, like I was like, all right, fuck it, your name, like I named my dick Solid Snake for a bit, right, just as a joke, and then it stuck, and now people are like, oh,
that's a cool one.
And then people are like, oh, Solid Snake here, or is it Big Boss tonight, right, depending on whatever mood I'm in. So that's sort of like the name, the jokey name that came across it. Yeah. What about your, like, you don't name your parts at all, Nat?
Me, no.
She doesn't.
No, because I think I would start to find it a bit cringe if I was like with someone and they knew the names of my like body parts. Say I had names for my devil's melons. And they started to actually say those names, you know, because there's something a bit cringe about that and not very sexy. So I would rather they didn't start calling my body parts by name in those situations. It's funny when you're just having like some banter in the pub or something, but when you're when it actually strays over into, you know,
real life. Can
I touch your Medusa? Was one of the ones someone had. You know, I don't think I'd be cool with that. I think that would kill the mood. So, and as for like less sexualized things, I mean, I wouldn't really think of naming my biceps, or, you know, when I'm training or whatever. Or so I saw someone in the chat say, oh yeah, Pizza Picante said, I bet anyone with a faulty knee or whatever will give it a funny name to help with it. I have a faulty knee. I broke it years ago and it's still a little bit iffy. And I've never really thought of giving it like a cute name so I can like it and make it heal better or something. That's actually quite cute though. I might do that now. Give my bad knee a name.
I'm the next Bond villain. It's Godfinger, not Goldfinger, brother.
Godfinger.
But anyway, like an aspect that I bring it up though is I find that completely normal what Rudy was doing in terms of, like, you know, naming his like boots or his legs or whatever, because in a way that's for him, that's his own little aspect of healing as well, right? Like you start naming things once you start compartmentalizing what we're doing, it's easier for us to process the events that are happening. So, for example, if you're playing a sport or a game or whatever, you usually compartmentalize what you have to do, right? Like if there's a cheat code involved, you compartmentalize to, oh yeah, it's just this cheat code instead of like you have to do these specific tasks, right? So when we compartmentalize and we give names and we shorten certain aspects, like I don't know the meaning of his boots or his legs or whatever he was naming, but for him it might have just been a process for him to do his like everyday task, right? Because they help him out throughout that.
Maybe in a way it's like him trying to cultivate those muscles, so he kind of gives them a name. So, but I think really more than anything it's just to remind us that Rudy is still a bit cringe, you know. That is part of his character. He is a bit cringe. So
I like being cringe though. I think it's his way of encouraging himself, because he's down in the dumps. He's like, you know, I'm going to give my muscles nicknames and then egg them on. But that's his way of egging him on, like encouraging himself by proxy of encouraging his muscles. So I mean that's one of the ways that he's doing it. And yeah, it's a bit cringe, but I think it's just he needs something to get him going. So he's like, you know what, I'll encourage my legs, and then that's my proxy.
Yeah. The only time you see him look genuinely happy in the first half of the episode is when he's training, because he is doing something for himself and he's seeing progress. And he is thinking about it in a bit of a cringe way, but that's because that's who Rudius is. It's in his mind. He keeps those names for his muscles forever. It's not just something he does now. It's like, that's just what they're called now. And, you know, that's how he thinks when he's training.
That's just who they are.
He's just, yeah.
So, I guess...
But he's cringe, you know, that's what we love about him. He's got that cringe riz.
Right. Well, I sort of found it funny because I'm like, nowadays, if anybody would meet someone like Rudius out there and, you know, he's being a little bit cringy, it's like, oh, he's endearing, you know. I think a lot of people find cringe, a little bit of cringe, not too much cringe, endearing, right? Because there is levels to that. Something that I did want to ask was Kirishika, right? The demon lord. We saw her statue. Yeah. We saw her statue placed up there in the dungeon where they were at. Is this it was an adult statue. Are we gonna witness that at some point? Or is that just like, nah, we're not even gonna touch that?
The reason for that is, and this isn't really a spoiler, this is something that we kind of already know. When Kishirika's immortal,
right?
When she gets killed, though, she's just reborn as a child again, and it takes a long time for her to mature. And she did mention this in the scene in season 1 when she's sort of talking about why she's hungry. She doesn't have to eat very often. She doesn't grow very fast, and all this sort of stuff.
And to also add, this also applies to other demon lords. That will be sort of. I'm saying that with a certain reason that Ed will discover.
Yeah, but it happens differently for Kishirika.
Yeah, she's
she just gets reborn, and they kind of don't know when she's going to be reborn, and then she's reborn. She takes a long time to mature, and so she will eventually, if she lives long enough, she will eventually look like the version of herself you saw in the statue, but it will take a long time. And it seems like because she's kind of dumb, she doesn't always live long enough to become her like adult powerful self.
Yeah, it seems to be her adult form is quite rare because of how stupid she is.
Dies. Yeah.
So I guess my follow-up questions, because SB, you dropped something interesting that I'm kind of curious about. You said other demon lords. Is it just demon lords, or could it even be the gods as well?
It's just the immortal demon race.
No.
Just the immortal ones.
So people like demons, they're not immortal. They're just demon tribes. But like the royalty of this is actually something that I talked about in my last video about all the different races in Mushoku Tensei. So if you want to know all about the immortal demon race, go and watch that after this stream. But after that bit of plugging, yeah, there is basically a type of immortal demon that is the royalty of the demons, basically. And so the other demon tribes that we see, you know, like Regerd and Roxy and those people, they're not immortal. They do have long lifespans, but they don't get reborn or regenerate or anything like that.
I think Discord's lagging a little bit, so just to answer that.
Yeah, because
so yeah, that's the answer. And the gods are a different thing. In the terminology used in Mushoku Tensei, God is basically just the strongest person of a race or a skill. So the sword god is the strongest in the sword style, and so on. It's not an actual god, but originally in the prequel there were Old Dragon's Tale, before this world kind of became the way it is now. There were actually a god of each, like the beastmen, the dragons, all of those races had an actual god. Now it's just used as and those didn't get reborn or regenerate either. They were extremely hard to kill. They were extremely powerful. Only really another god could kill a god. But the immortal...
A god is very difficult to kill.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you guys, because while we're going through this, I'm taking down notes, right? Because it's hitting on a lot of things that I had thought about. Are we in a single timeline or are we in a loop timeline?
Ed, naughty.
Shut up.
Don't ask questions like that.
That's me.
I know that you're looking at my eyes, so I'm.
Well, the reason why I asked that is because you just mentioned it's difficult to kill a god, right? And hold on, and with all the different gods that have been listed, like, you know, that like Nat was listing right now, it came into my mind, like when we're looking at Orsted specifically, right? Him not being able to recognize Rudy, and the wording that he used when he first bumped into the group, like, you know, you're not supposed to be here, or whatever that was, makes me wonder, is this a singular timeline or a loop timeline? And is Rudy an irregularity in this timeline?
How can you ask these questions like
that's the right question to
want
ask?
To know the answers.
Nat, all you got to go with is that's the right question to ask, and just leave it at that.
I love that
he'll lose his marbles after a couple of minutes.
No.
But you're asking us things that you know we know the answer to, but you don't want to know the answer because it's a spoiler.
Now you see what he does to me.
Because I might be completely off, right? Like, it might have absolutely nothing to do with...
Yeah, but if we tell you you're wrong or we tell you you're right, either way it's a spoiler.
That's why you go with that answer, Nat. It's the perfect one. That's the right answer.
Because
it's the right question to ask.
If this is the case, so let me throw out my like a little bit of judgment here, which is, if this is the case, this is actually pretty interesting writing, like pretty interesting developments. Like, if for example, if we're talking about a closed loop circle, SB, how would you feel if, like, say the goddess Nat decided to put you in a closed loop circle? Would you be okay?
Who said the god's the one that put it in the loop?
Or the demon lord Ed? Like, how would you feel if you were trapped in an endless circle?
It'd be pretty annoying, because you'd be living through. The thing is, though, like, okay, if you're in a timeless loop, then the only thing you can really do is the objective itself, because you can't do anything else. Like, imagine if you're in an endless loop, and let's just say there was no like needing to do some big grand thing and you just were able to live your life, you'd fall in love and then you'd end up resetting, and then what? You just fall in love with the same person again, or you go, man, you know what, I might try something different. And then how many times can you do that before you're at that point where you're like, everything's predictable?
So how do you escape the loop?
It's like, imagine if you watch the same movie a million times.
Yeah, but you can change what's in the movie, can't you? It's like, if you got a chance to just know that whenever you die...
Not really, though. Remember,
you get to live all over again.
Have fixed points. It's like Doctor Who, there is fixed points.
Maybe they do in the story we're talking about. But Ed's question was just if you were in a fixed loop, you had to live your life over and over. And this wouldn't be like a Subaru situation where you just go back in time a few days or whatever. This would be like your whole entire life over and over again. You would be able to just do completely different stuff every time. You just have a whole life.
Yes and no. Now I've had this discussion with other people for like 8 hours, so I'm prepared for this conversation about time travel and looping. TAFE, college. I've had this discussion during lunch where we ended up skipping the entire day of study just to talk about time travel. And we went over every theory. The problem is with looping is that humans haven't, like, there's human nature itself, and we're kind of almost, in my opinion, we're kind of almost programmed to do things in a very specific way. Like, our behavior traits almost make us behave in certain ways. Like, what's the way to put it? It's not like a fixed point, like we're going to do exactly the same thing, but we always kind of end up steering ourselves in a very specific direction due to our values and stuff. And unless something major happens and it changes our fundamental core values, I feel like we're always going to steer in a certain direction. It's like,
but would you, when you have the memories of your previous life? Because essentially, by the time you're like a teenager in your second life or whatever, you have all of
the others rotating around that person that's always looping. Like, if you're interacting with someone, they're going to behave in certain ways that you know ahead of time. And that's the thing. It's like you can change your behavior because you're like, nah, I'm going to spice it up a little bit. But then others are kind of always almost like programmed to behave in a certain way. And I feel like even if you try and change something, like you're like, oh, well, I married this person and lived in death to us part with this person, I'll try someone else. But there's a real deep reason why they may hate you unless you change something very fundamental in that journey.
But you would basically have like the knowledge and wisdom of a whole lifetime, you know? So like you're a teenager, but you're not going to make the same dumb mistakes you made when you were a teenager because you already have the wisdom of the rest of your life. Right. You're not going to make the same mistakes. You're not going to choose a career that in your first life you actually found out you hated, and you ended up.
I feel wisdom is something that you can learn so easily. Wisdom, I think, takes a lot of self-reflection, and just because you can live through life a million times doesn't mean that you'll just suddenly become wiser. Otherwise,
you will be wiser than you were in your first life when you were 15, when you're 15 the second time around.
Some may, but not always. I just don't
Nobody's wise when they're 15 the first time around, are they?
I just don't feel wisdom is something everyone gains over years. Like, I feel like some people can gain wisdom over 5 years or 10 years, a lot of it, but some people could spend 80 years of their life and absolutely gain no wisdom whatsoever and be the most stupidest person on the planet that makes the dumbest mistakes. Even though they've made them already, they'll make them again. And I feel like that's just, it depends on the individual. That's what
I don't think anybody would bother to put someone that dumb into a time loop, though.
Right. I mean, if we're talking about Orchid, then I feel like he's clearly been given that for a reason, and he wouldn't be stupid enough. I feel like wisdom is something that he'd gain properly, but I mean, I was talking general. I was talking like philosophical, like human nature and stuff. I just don't feel like every human is equipped to learn and grow on the same level as everyone else, and I feel like some people are almost destined to repeat the same mistake. I mean, I read enough history books, and I just kind of always read them, and the one thing I've always learned when reading history is even when things are laid out in front of us and we've learned all of these wars, we always seem to be destined to repeat the same mistake. It's just a matter of when, not if, because for some reason, history just becomes very murky. And I feel like if you were repeating things, okay, sure, you might learn some things from it, but the human mind always tries to unlearn useless knowledge.
Right.
And that's just how our brains work. And so I feel like if you were repeating things, a lot of your life would become very, very, very murky. But I mean, that's hard to answer because no one's lived legitimately for over 800 years. It's a concept we've come up with. And it is curious to see if, say, in like 100 years' time, if medical technology became to the point where we could live 150, 250, etc., would our minds...
that it was coming and we were going to get to live to be really old.
Aww. Oh.
No, he said that technology was coming soon.
Yeah,
and
I did talk about the other stream about there is discussion about medical technology of pushing us to about 150 is what they're looking at, and so that's why I brought it up.
Stuff, but
I mean, if you look at it like a couple of hundred years ago, life expectancy in the medieval times was between 20 to 30 years. Most people were dead by their 30s. Like 30s was actually a miracle in itself because most people died from like the basic of illnesses like personal hygiene and stuff, because personal hygiene wasn't a big thing back then, and as we've learned, we've increased our life expectancy.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think most of the time it's like between 80 now, and it's getting to the point where people are able to push even close to 100. But there's been this this debate that there is a hard cap and it's around 100 that we can't go past. I disagree with that. Even though there are much smarter people that say that, I still disagree with them. But then other smart people have said those smart people are wrong. So
well, I mean,
I do feel like there maybe it's a soft cap, and we're going to be pushing that soft cap, and we might be able to push to say like 150. But then
as far as I know, right, and my ex-boyfriend worked in medical research as a physicist, but they did a lot of studies on the connections between like inflammation and aging and things like that. As I understand it, if you can reverse or delay aging, then the lifespan will increase in that way. I don't think the aim is to just keep people healthy once they get into old age. You would need to either reverse or prevent the effects of aging. But at the same time, when you think about it, like statistically, you're always kind of rolling the dice whether or not one of your cells is going to become cancer.
Right.
And the longer you live, the more likely that will happen to you. So if everybody was living for 200 years, chances are everybody would get some kind of terminal illness, because you are always kind of statistically rolling the dice that your cells are going to mutate in that way. And so in order to allow for a longer lifespan, you would need things like, there's a technology called CRISPR that's kind of gene editing, which could be used to reverse aging in a way, prevent aging. You'd also need means of, reliable means of preventing or immediately curing cancers and things like that. So, basically they have a saying in medicine that's like, cancer will kill you unless something else kills you first.
Well,
because that's basically it. You will eventually get cancer if you live long enough.
Like, could you do what that comment said? Reverse aging and become a cat girl for me.
Oh, ooh.
we need to get into talks with Elon about that.
He said he was going to do cat girl robots instead.
I mean, I can't turn into a cat girl robot. Oh, actually, though, they could just put my brain in a cat girl robot.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up, because that is currently one of the major studies that is happening. I love that you guys are focusing on like the humanistic element, like in terms of like keeping our body, but in psychology, one of the big aspects that is currently being studied is literally making a replica of human consciousness. So being able to transfer consciousness into connectomes and stuff like that. So,
well, I was actually having this thought process as well the other night, because the whole aging process being extended, and it's like, okay, well, what if you could live forever? The very concept of immortality changes everything about how we see the world, because the whole point of life, at least from how people see things, is that you grow and then you have a family and you pass your knowledge on to the next generation and you build that sort of legacy. But if immortality became a thing, or longevity, and talking hundreds of years, our entire priority sets change. Like love itself changes in a major fundamental way, because generally love and repropriation and children and all that was part of the process. But then it becomes more about, well, finding long-term companionship, and then priorities change. To me, it would be a massive cultural change, I feel like.
Right. But let's
we do see that in like very long-lived races in things like Mushoku Tensei.
Right.
They
and Elise is one of those.
Yeah. I mean, like the way she thinks of like her children is completely different to how humans do. and the way that elves as a species can reproduce, you know, it's very hard to get them pregnant because otherwise the place would just be overrun with elves. They can reproduce, but because they live for hundreds of years, it doesn't happen as regularly as with humans, even for someone like Elena Lise, who's getting the D quite often, you know. she has children, but she would just be constantly pregnant if she was human, you know. So
what I find interesting is two points. Number one, if humanity, like, just to reiterate that, because you're right, the concept of culturally of humanity or humans in general would change if like long-term longevity was a thing. But yet, if we were to be space explorers, we either have to right, find out the secrets of light speed travel or near light speed travel, or B, be able to go ahead and travel outside of our physical bodies, right? I.e., AI conscious, like having a consciousness retrieval system or something like that. Because it would be really, really difficult for humans to be able to make a long-term journey like that. Another interesting
I mean,
part,
I guess the other way would be the old freezing people thing. So the spacecraft would be controlled by AI and the people on board would just be frozen, reliable.
Go down that route in technology. I think they'll find.
No, I don't think they will either. I think there will actually be something better than that. You know, like you said, maybe we can all just be uploaded to the Matrix, and you know, you would be separate from society. You'd have basically an afterlife.
You know, you were talking about Daddy Elon there, and you do know Daddy Elon is working on Neuralink, and that's a brain chip, and that's able to read our information and insert and take data in and out of our brains. All you would have to do is just expand that concept of technology to upload to a device, but then it comes down to, okay, how much space does a human brain take?
Right.
And also, how conscious are you? You know, is it just a copy of you, or are you conscious?
Yeah, that's one of the things I always wondered.
I don't care if a copy of me lives forever. I want to be aware that I'm alive, you know? And
but would you even know? That's the thing.
Yeah, but if it's a copy, I wouldn't care.
Well, if it was a copy, you would think you're the real thing.
Right.
You wouldn't know. You would think you were the legitimate. If the other version of you did die, you were the copy, you wouldn't know.
Only if the copy was conscious and self-aware. If it was just, you know, an AI based on my data, then it wouldn't be.
If it was conscious and aware, it would still be just a copy of you. But it wouldn't know that you were just a copy. That's the thing. It's like if you create two copies and the other one, the original dies, the copy will probably think that you're the original.
Yeah, but I wouldn't care either way because I'd be dead.
Exactly.
So, you know, the only reason I would care about this technology is if it could allow me, as the experience of life that I'm having, to continue longer than. And I think the way that it would be kind of like an afterlife. So you're not really in society, you're in like a Matrix kind of situation. Like I said, like that Black Mirror episode with those lesbians that go back to the 80s.
Yeah.
It was like the one Black Mirror episode that actually had like a happy ending and was like positive. And it was like, oh, I wish that technology actually was real, unlike everything else in this series.
But through that, just quickly touching back on this, because our conversation as we diverged into this was on Orsted, right? Which brings up my line of questioning is, does this start at a specific event for him? And is it like, as if it's a multi-linear theory, a multi-universal theory, everything happening all at once? Or if it's a singular loop and there's different variables being thrown into this? For me, this is just spiraling my mind into an era of torture that, like,
I have a video that completely explains it, how time works in Mushoku Tensei. And you can watch that if you want to spoil yourself. But if you don't want to spoil yourself, I can't answer any of these questions, even though I do have the answers, because I did make a like 40-minute long video about it.
Well, I mean, you've kind of
took me a while to figure it out to write the video as well. So
you've kind of hinted to Ed that there is some time aspect to this. So the question comes down to, if Rudy is the anomaly, is there more than one anomaly? And if there is more than one anomaly, who's the other anomaly?
Or anomalies.
Or anomalies? Ed?
You want me to go with my first shot impression as to who I think it might be?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's probably the black-haired girl that he was traveling with, because she's the only girl, the only person that has had black hair in the entire series.
And her name does sound a bit different to the names of other characters in the setting, doesn't it?
Wait. What's her name? I completely forgot.
Nanahoshi.
So she's Japanese.
To Ed.
Yeah.
She has a Japanese name.
Huh?
Have you watched episode 1 yet? Again. Remember when we first spoke? I told you to rewatch it?
Right. Haven't had the chance, but I will. I most definitely will. So
yeah, some people are saying that me saying her name was a spoiler. I didn't think it was. Thought it was said in the episode.
I was pretty sure it was said in the episode.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm pretty sure it was said. I just don't remember it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if it's said once in one scene.
Ed's not going to remember everything. I mean, we're not superhuman. We're not.
But it is the kind of thing that if you're watching that episode with this kind of thought in your head, it's the kind of thing that when they say her name, you might.
Eris said it because Orsted said it. It was kind of like Eris repeated it because she heard it from Orsted, but yeah.
So it is the kind of thing that if you have that thought in your mind when you're watching it, you may notice that her name is Japanese, unlike other characters, and that might make you think she's a bit more sus. But we can't spoil whether she is sus, you know.
She's got a mask. That's sus enough.
That's pretty sus. Yeah, that's pretty sus.
Maybe that's because she looks a certain way that certain people that nobody else in that world looks, you know.
So my thing is,
maybe she looks a little bit Japanese. I don't know.
That's a displacement incident for her as well, right? Being brought in. Because my thing is, if she was brought in from Japan, then she's been displaced. Wait. Sorry, an attachment. We have in psychology, we literally call displacement the movement of like anything that isn't your immediate home is a displacement incident, right? Like your immediate country, home. If you were to just take it and be thrown somewhere else, she was displaced.
Yeah, I mean,
from Japan, right?
Yeah.
So, and there's a displacement incident that happens in Mushoku Tensei.
Mm-hmm.
So then are the two related? I.e., does the displacement incident in Mushoku Tensei, i.e., the reason why this person was displaced in Japan?
I have a 40-minute long video about this as well, actually.
How many 40-minute long videos you got now?
Quite a few.
Quite a few.
And this particular one about the mass teleportation incident, I usually use that translation for it rather than mass displacement, but either is fine. Mass teleportation incident video spoils everything right up to the final chapter of the series. So, you know, don't watch that if you don't want spoilers. And maybe consider that this may not be something you're going to get answers to very soon.
Because this is what I'm thinking, right? Rudius was killed and reincarnated, right? But yet, this person is displaced because you're still the same age and brought into this world, right? Or similar age, per se. Unless she was reincarnated as well as a black-haired Japanese
said to be
person.
differences, yeah, between Rudius and that character.
My mind's going wild.
So,
all right. I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna put a star on this. I'm gonna save this for later.
Consider also that Rudius was reincarnated 10 years before the mass displacement incident.
But then that's sort of where my star was going, which is how does time work? Because that is a key thing there. Because i.e., if Rudius was reincarnated, say I'm just gonna use a wild example, right? Like, say that he was reincarnated and they decided to place him at a younger age or younger period, right? Who's not to say that the displacement incident happened the same way it would have happened I don't know, like let's say that we're talking right now. Boom, there's a giant wall of light that comes up and SB disappears. But I die of a heart attack. And SB, it might be 1 second for him, but for me, it's been 15 years since I've reincarnated into this other world.
No, that's actually that I can see why you would think that, because that's the kind of thing they do in other stories, but this isn't the right answer.
Okay, that's interesting.
I can tell you when your predictions are wrong, right? But that's not really a spoiler.
He'll get closer. Trust me.
Yeah, I know he will. I know he will. But
anyway,
I kind of like it when you're wrong, because I don't have to be me and SB don't have to be awkward about.
Well, no, I was gonna say, like, people like to be like, oh yeah, he's right all the fucking time, and I was like, no, bro, I love being wrong because it gets you to think, you know.
Oh, I'm looking forward to the future episodes because there's something you've gotten a little bit missed, and I'm looking forward to it.
Ooh, I'm excited to see where that's.
I actually like when my own theories are wrong, when I'm making theories up about series that haven't finished yet or that I haven't read and I'm anime only on, because that means the writers managed to do something that surprised me.
Right.
And I really like making theories about like ReZero.
I like coming up with stupid theories.
Yeah. And you can, there's a lot of mysteries in ReZero, and you can come up with some really crack theories about them. And I want all of my theories to be wrong, because even the ones I've really thought.
Oh.
Nah.
I mean, I was able to, because the way I think about things is like how someone would write it, how the author thinks, what he's done before, what would make sense in this story. And I don't want to be right about that. I want him to be a better author than me and to come up with better things than I can come up with, And otherwise, what's the fun in reading it? I don't want to be right about everything. Being right about something that might happen in the next episode, or being right about going down the right kind of route on what might be happening with time or something like that is interesting. But if you're right about everything, then that kind of means maybe the author isn't able to surprise you, and you want the author to be able to surprise you.
It depends, though. I liked one quote from the writer for Game of Thrones where he said, even if you build something up and it's obvious that people are guessing what you're building up, you shouldn't change it just because fans have guessed it. I still think that's important as well.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
But I was going to ask you, Ed, because you believe there's some form of time shenanigans in this, and Rudy's clearly been teleported, do you think he could go back to Earth?
So then the question becomes, can he go back, or does he want to go back?
That's the right question.
Right.
If he could, would he want to?
But I mean, wouldn't that be more of a...
If he didn't want to, could there maybe be another way that he could communicate?
Well, I mean, I was going to say, this sounds more like, for example, if you were displaced from Earth onto this realm, wouldn't that be your goal?
Depends if the person wanted to be displaced. What if someone didn't want to be displaced and they wanted to go back home? And what if someone else didn't want to go back home?
See, Rudius died and he'd had a horrible life, and he was basically in a situation where he didn't know if you think about the situation Rudius was in the night that he died, you can't really think of a way for him to have survived or come out of that. And he dies and he's reborn into a new world where he has a new body, he's a baby, he's got a new family, he can do magic, he can do all this cool stuff. Of course he doesn't want to go back. His life was decisively over. He died. But if you didn't die, if you were like someone like Subaru in ReZero that was just transported to a new world and didn't have the body that was compatible with that world, couldn't do necessarily all the magic and all that sort of stuff, would you then want to go back? You can't even speak the languages, maybe. You know, in ReZero they can, but because they all speak Japanese. But in Mushoku Tensei's world, we know about the languages they can speak. If you were displaced to that world and you couldn't speak any of the languages, would you want to just go back to Japan? We know why Rudius wouldn't, but would somebody else?
More than likely.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point of the question with Ed, is that if someone was displaced that was happy where they were, would they then be more pushing that idea of going back home? And then it was the question of, can they do it?
So hold on, because now you guys are spiraling something in my mind real quick, which is SB. Say that you are displaced, right? And you come into my world in the here and now, um, and you're looking for Nat for whatever reason, because Nat got displaced with you. We go around, we're like, where's Nat? We travel every single place that we can, and we can't find Nat. And you want to go home, but you don't see Nat, and you feel like Nat's gonna come with you, or family members, or whatever. Would you go home if you had an opportunity to, or would you try and find Nat?
That's an interesting question. I mean, if it was me, yeah, I'd try and find those that possibly could have been displaced.
Mm-hmm.
If I knew someone else possibly could have.
Especially if it was me, right?
Especially.
If I don't find you, Pepe will.
Oh yeah.
We just got
like a divining.
My divine Pepe will find you. Go, my young one, go.
Let me start off this engine for you, yeah.
To add something to that question though, Ed. What makes you think that he would have an easy means to just go home if he wanted to?
Oh, I'm sure it'd be a struggle.
He might really long to, but what if it's something that would be like nobody in that world even knows how to do?
See, then SP would start the grieving process, right? Especially if he starts losing hope in that. Like, I'm sure there's already grieving processes that start happening, but I assume like at that point the grieving process can be so would be tremendous to the point where he might just be like frozen solid for a little bit, and it might take him a while for us to like.
Would it though? I mean, like maybe if your real longing is to go home,
right,
you would just devote your life to finding a way to do it, right. Even if nobody currently knows how to do it. You might believe that it's possible, so you might try and find a way to do it.
And how attached and cold would you be to that world that you're currently in that you don't want to be in?
And you could also, while you're dedicating your time to that, maybe try and do what Rudius is doing in this current time and get your name out there so that that person that you are looking for that you think might have been displaced will be able to find you.
I mean, it would be smart, right? That way your name travels across the world. People start finding out like more about you. Your name's going out there. So maybe people can go ahead and start. Because my number one thing is, you're right. How attached would you be to a world like this, right? Where you just came into. I'll be honest, if I was displaced into another environment, I don't think I would be as attached. And I might just be... Hold on. both of you, hold on. Wait a minute. Hold on. I'm taking notes because of you guys. You guys are wild. I love you guys. Is this an aspect as to why we're getting a school arc? And SP stopped chewing. SP stopped chewing for
I was just waiting for him. I was waiting for him to say that because you can see him, you can't see me, and
yeah, I stopped chewing. But instantly my head just went shit.
That's the right question to ask. Yes,
it's the right question, Ed.
All right, I'm not gonna pry further because I don't want to spoil myself, but I will say that is fucking awesome. Holy shit, if that is the case.
I like the fact that we're getting excited, though. That's what I like doing. I like getting him excited, getting him primed up. Bit like
getting
Pepe.
Everyone revved up, like
You're getting me revved up.
See? I'm stroking his Pepe as much as I stroke mine.
I haven't got one, so
it's all right. I can stroke your
Medusa.
No, I was going to say your Cave of Wonders.
Oh.
Oh yeah, because we started trying to come up with names for my body parts on the other stream as well. He's not just off the cuff starting to make up lewd names for parts of me or anything.
I mean, if he did, I'd be like, damn, SP, you moving quick. That wrist, though. But that is...
It's not that quick. We have known each other for quite a long time at this point.
Right. But my number one thing is, you know, whether it's your Cave of Wonders or his Pepe or my snake, I think it's always a fucking blast. Exactly, my little solid snake here. Ooh. But like, it's always a blast to have you guys and like literally ponder this. You guys get me so hyped for the rest of the like the series and what may come. The Heavenly
Yeah,
Fingers.
you're
Wow,
gonna love
thank
it.
you. So, I guess just quickly going through this new character that we're introduced, the Riz man himself. What's his name? Not
Soul
really.
Daddy.
Soul Dad, I
Soul
like to call
Daddy,
him.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that.
I just changed the T for a D.
The parallels with Paul, with like a young version of Paul per se, and especially
That's why he
this.
calls him so bad, dude. That's the joke.
I found it awesome. Like I'm not sure if you guys like just a manipulation, not really like overt manipulation that but like he goes through, it's like foot in the door technique to try and get closer, because if he just attacked Rudy as without a base, the whole group was going to go after him when they're having their like dinner talk after that incident. So he goes through, it's the foot in the door technique with the mommy of the group, then with Timothy, right? Gets him to go ahead and at least acquiesce before he attacks Rudy. And I'm like, this is like, even drunk, my dude has that liquid courage to go in there and like establish a weird power dynamic with that entire group.
See, on the stream that we were talking about, one of the reasons why I really like Soul Dad is because he kind of reminds me of myself in real life, is how I've always been very blunt and honest about things. And it's the reason why I like Soul Dad, is that he's very blunt, straight to the point. If he doesn't like something, he'll tell you, and he'll be very, very much in your face. But the question comes down to, though, is that if someone's very confrontational, they're very blunt, some people are going to love that. Some people are going to hate that, because some people don't mind the confrontational part. They can deal with it. They know where he stands. So if he says, I like you, you're a good friend, then you know that he values your friendship. While if you're saying or doing something wrong, you've either got to deal with it and manage it, or you just don't be his friend, because clearly it would be something that will clearly get under your skin.
Right.
The question is that, do you think Rudy would ever be able to warm up to someone that's extremely confrontational like that? That's very much in your face, will say it how it is, doesn't care, will be like, no, that's a problem, you need to deal with it.
See, I think so. I think and the reason why I say that is because when Paul confronted Rudy, what did he do? In a very similar aspect, Rudy was able to break down these walls that Paul had when that confrontation was happening, right? And in a great parallel that was happening when, Paul confronted Rudy, it was a very similar aspect for personal growth. However, this is a total stranger, and I know that, right? Like, there's no reason for him to invest himself in a scenario like this.
So how do you think he'll break down that wall, though?
See, now that's a good question. Now that's sort of where I'm like, I've been thinking about it. I'm like, do you either out-riz him? I'm kidding. Or you allow yourself an opportunity to show up the reasons why he's critiquing you, right? Because sometimes a lot of people, because there was a question that popped up, which is, do you think that Soldat is a bully? And no, there's a difference between bullying and then someone criticizing you, right? Bullying is someone continuously doing an action to try and cause you hurt, trauma, whatever, right? That's what bullying is. Someone criticizing you is pointing out aspects that like they feel you might better yourself from, or you feel like you might like be hiding from. So
I think one of the reasons why people see him as a bully is because of how
direct he is,
pinpoint his criticisms are. Like, he doesn't sugarcoat them. Like, there could have been a better way that Soldat could have gone about it. He could have gone like, oh, you're disturbing people with your face, but the rudeness, the harshness, like, it was like a dagger to Rudy, and he tries to put on that face, and then you see him clenching his fist. Like, he's getting frustrated, he's getting angry, but the reality is Rudy knows it's true. And I mean, one of the things that I love about the episode is a lot of people criticize the animations for Rudy's face, saying it looks weird. I mean, it's deliberate because it's meant to show just how creepy his face is. Because in the light novels, it says his face looks creepy. That constant weird smile, kind of holding his face sort of still, it creeps people out. And I think it did a good job there. And I think that's what Soldat is going right after. He's saying, this is creepy. You're creeping people out. You're being awkward. Sarah even called it out at the start, but she was a little bit more elegant than Soldat in comparison. And then there's also Suzanne, who's trying to sort of rough around the try and sand down the edges for Sarah as well. So it's, yeah, like I go back to is, how do you think that relationship between Soldat and Rudy would go forward if they were to become friends? How would Rudy break down that barrier?
Can I just sort of add something before he answers that? Sure. Because I saw someone, JP Style said, when Paul confronted Rudy back with the Sylphie issue, Rudy argued back. He had no words for Soldat. And that kind of comes into, you know, what you sort of jokingly said, could he try and out-riz him? Rudius's riz and persuasion and stuff are just not working at the moment because he just doesn't feel like he has any right to defend himself or any worth, you know. Everything that Soldat said, he just accepted. He's just like, yeah, that is true.
Because the difference between Paul was in the wrong.
Right.
He felt angry. He at least he felt like there was a misunderstanding in that situation with Paul. And so they both thought they were right, but in reality it was just a kind of misunderstanding of what the other person knew about the situation. Whereas in this case, it's like, you know, in the same way that he never really tried to win over Sarah, he never really tried to, like, in the same way that he did with Eris when she was being hostile to him, he thought about, how can I become one of the people that she listens to? How can I become someone that she'll learn from and all that? And yeah, partly because it was his job, but also partly because he just wanted people to like him and he thought he was deserving of being liked at that point. Whereas now, he kind of does just think, yeah, I am pitiable, I am, you know, and yeah, I probably am bumming everyone out. And yeah, maybe I'm not taking the work seriously enough because I don't value my life enough. Maybe I am reckless and all this. And, you know, all things that Soldat finds irritating about him, he just kind of accepts it. He couldn't out-riz anybody right now because he doesn't see the point. He doesn't think he's worth liking. So why try and charm anyone?
I also think that just Soldat is in the right though. And I think Rudy has to kind of own that before he's able to move forward. And I think Soldat is actually a really good character at helping Rudy because I think what Rudy needs right now is a reality check. He needs to be told straight to his face, you're not the only one with problems. Because let's be honest here, what's Rudy's entire mood about? Oh, he gave his first time to a cute girl and she left.
Right.
Boo-hoo, that happens to everyone.
Right.
And I know that sounds harsh, but it's like, that's a reality. And that's how Soldat is approaching it. Boo-hoo. We all go through crap, get over it, stop moping and stop looking down on everyone because you think you've had it worse. Because clearly, yes, you've had a pretty bad life, clearly, but it's not the end of the world. And that's why he says the last remark, are you happy with your life?
Because if you're not, then what's the point?
But a big aspect.
And I think also, like, if Rudius was just some emo kid hanging around in the bar drinking or something, Soldat wouldn't even bother. It's the fact that he's not taking being an adventurer seriously enough because of the way that he doesn't value. And for Soldat, who that's his livelihood, that's his job, and he's very good at it, it's probably very frustrating to see someone talented and stuff who's just making these kind of reckless decisions and just, yeah.
Well, my thing
just
is
not treating it the way we should.
Put yourself in Soldat's position. It's been months since Rudy's been here. We all know that he's pretty talented. He's been moping around for all this time, right? And looking down on people and, you know, not really caring about others per se and just doing the most menial task to get by. And you're like, okay, you're talented. What the fuck are you doing? Like,
but he's not even doing the menial task to get by. He actually refuses payment. And that was mentioned in the thing that was said. He has enough money. He's doing the menial task to just gain reputation so that his name will be spread around and hopefully anybody who hears anything about Zenith
and this
will
is
know
another point that some fans do also bring up is what is the point of doing that? Is it really that effective? Like, oh, you're a small little cliquey group. Like, why stick with Arrow if you're trying to find your mother and you need to build a reputation? Wouldn't you build a little bit of a reputation and then move somewhere else?
Yeah, that's what he does, though. He literally says that when in his inner monologue, when Sarah asks him to join them for that mission.
Yeah, I just wanted
he
to
literally says it's not the ideal way of meeting my goals to always team up with Counter Arrow. But he still does it anyway.
I think he does it because he feels connected. I think that's helping him grow, and I think that's the reason. I mean, I'm stating the obvious because I've become like that because my fans sometimes ask me questions that is like kind of the obvious, so I repeat what's in the series. But that's why I like Soldat. He's top tier character in my opinion, and it refers back to a thing that you asked me the other week. You said if I could give one bit of advice to people, and I said the onion. Peel the onion.
Yeah.
Don't judge too soon. Peel that onion with Soldat, and that's why chat knew straight away was that Soldat's more complex. He's rough around the edges, but you also got to remember he's a leader. He's there to protect not just himself but also his team. And if Rudy's taking jobs and not taking money, it's like it's not setting a good image for other adventurers. It's making it sound like, oh well, we don't have to pay you, right? Because Rudy won't take the money. It's like people have to make money.
Well, I mean, even his anger when they were in the dungeon was pretty justified. Like that was an aspect that people kept bringing up, and I'm like, okay, so what would you do in a scenario like this? Like you're a leader, you're caught in this position, you have your adventuring party, right, where they're expecting payment, and you see this other group already there cleaning up, uh, taking down a lot of these things. What would your reaction be? You'd probably be pretty pissed. These people are invading on your thing. You have to acquiesce and be like, you either have two choices, right? Number one, stand your ground as a leader, keep your adventuring party happy, and be able to go ahead and set your boundaries with the other group that is there, or literally try and find the medium ground. But when you're in a fight or flight state, when you're fighting those scaly things, those monsters, like what does that mean? You're probably not going to be thinking about that. You're probably going to be going off immediately, like your emotions off of that. So through that,
I mean, also he does know Timothy, so he might have just kind of thought, "There's no point arguing with this guy. I've just got to slap some sense into him," because clearly Soldat doesn't like the leadership style that Timothy has, which is effective but different. Right. He's very, calm and smiley and always looking after his guys and that, whereas Soldat seems to take a much more military kind of approach to his leadership. And with them being kind of at odds like that in their management styles, you can see why maybe for Soldat he's had encounters with this guy before probably, and why he was believing that they were trying to steal their quest when they were actually doing a different one. It's he knows this guy. He knows that arguing with him, he's probably just going to smile and say, yeah, okay, we won't take any of your kills, and so he hits him, and he does apologize later. It's before going on a rant about how much he doesn't like the guy, but he does apologize.
Well, my thing is when they were talking about Rudy seems fake, and it's like, how many of us have forced to smile like that though? Like we're fucking hurt, right? We're trying processing our own things, and people were calling out Rudy on this, like his whole like constantly apologizing, saying I'm sorry, that fake mask and whatnot. Man, this is a question that I brought up, and I was like, how many of you have actually done this, which is you've gone through a really, really bad time, depression, and like you might have really bad anxiety, and you put on a mask and you're just like trying to go through the day. That's a lot of people almost every day.
I think a lot of people are more convincing than Rudius about it, though.
Oh, absolutely.
So he was creeping people out for months. It's not just like they've only met him like once and he was a bit creepy looking. He's been doing that. He's been there in that town for months with that same like attempt at a smile that doesn't reach the eyes and creeps people out. So I mean, obviously people in real life probably do this all the time, but we don't necessarily catch them out as easily as Rudius gets caught out.
Right.
You probably would, but like me, I would just assume you're fine if you're smiling at me.
Dude, I had a client blow up on me like a long time ago for that, because they were smiling, but deep down inside, like I could tell that they were struggling through something. And I went like, because in therapy, sometimes we can be pretty confrontational, right? Like once we've built enough rapport, like it's never just going to be a super chill session. And if it is, call out your therapist, please. It'll be like, for example, let's say that SB and I are in a session, right? And SB's like, oh, I'm having a great day despite listing all of these bad things. And it's like, SB, are you trying to lie to me or are you trying to lie to yourself? And immediately that line of questioning can start up a big moment of like, holy shit, like we're gonna get real here. But it's true. Like sometimes you do need to get called out, and that rupture and repair process is one of the most beautiful aspects for building a relationship. And I think for if you have a friend that can call you out like that and is real with you from time to time, get a friend like that. I thought you had a question, S, because you seemed like I thought you were processing something.
I was. It was just reminding me of my relationship or my friendship with Ace, because I'm always very blunt with him, and sometimes he doesn't take it the best. Whenever I'm very blunt and real with him on something, and I was kind of thinking, I was like, some people don't take bluntness super well. Like if you can clearly see someone's doing something, and you're like, hey, you need to stop this. You need to change your approach. Sometimes some people are a little bit more reluctant to want to listen to criticism, even if it is fair criticism. Even if you try and sugarcoat it a little bit and try and wiggle it in, they still don't take criticism the best.
Giggity.
Giggity.
Wiggle it in. Giggity.
Wiggle it in.
Quagmire. Oh god, that was a name and a half. Quagmire. Bro, I couldn't stop laughing. I was like internally like, why? What is that name? Was that like a final special move or something? Because that's what chat was saying.
It's his ability.
It's not really an ability. It's just a normal spell, but it's the one that he tends to favor as his main strategy that he uses a lot, where he basically turns the ground underneath the monster or whatever to mud, so they sink into it, and so it creates a quagmire basically. And then he shoots them with earth magic bullets, basically.
Yep. Stone cannon.
And yeah, stone cannon. And he basically starts doing it in this arc, but it becomes his signature technique. Basically, he can do loads of other stuff, but this like simple thing just works so many times that it's like his go-to thing that he does. He doesn't see the point in doing anything flashy.
Nobody expects
when
it.
he can just do that.
I mean, he used it in season one.
They do expect it. Like,
that's
his
where
name is Quagmire. Everyone expects him to use Quagmire. It's like.
But yeah, you're gonna remember he used it on Paul at the start in season one, so it's been something that he's learned and used as throughout the beginning. And I think it also stems to like that MMO kind of feel, like CC, crowd control. I think it's something Rudy's kind of learned probably from his gaming from when he was in his other world. He's probably learnt the disrupt kind of attitude, because it doesn't seem like it's something commonly used in the Mushoku Tensei world by other mages, but also mana is a limit, so you probably want to maybe focus on killing rather than slowing down.
Well, through that, I guess the last area of focus that this show brought us into, which is Rudy's setting out to go save Sarah and Mimir. Of course, Mimir's dead, but you know, for him, for you, what do you feel like was, because we hear a little bit of his monologue as to what's going on through that, but for like what was your takeaway from that? What you guys feel from
that? Well, I don't think it made as much. They made as much of the actual danger he was in that rescue as it was in the novels. It felt a lot more difficult in the novels than it looked on the screen. I don't think that's necessarily that important, but it does, you know, when you've read that, it does make you think he wasn't just doing something that was easy for him that would have been harder for the others. And so, of course, he's going to go and save her, which he does. And then he's going to heal her, and then he's going to bring her back. He was actually in some danger.
And yeah, it was a much more challenging fight than it seems. It's just, for some reason they really cut it down. That's why I was saying before that I would like to have, if they added like another 5 or 10 seconds to that fight scene, it would have made the world of difference.
But even the journey to find her was a lot more treacherous than it. So, you know, he really wanted to save her. Now, whether that was in part because he felt like he just owed something to Counter Arrow as a group. You know, he, as he said in his monologue, Sarah was starting to warm to him, even though he didn't really know her that well yet.
Right.
or it's just an innate thing in Rudius that he doesn't want other people to go through loss and suffer like he has, and he doesn't want, you know, if there's a chance you can save somebody, then you should do it. You know, could be something within him that's just the kind of person he is. He's on a hero's path after all, you know, like, and the fact that he so nonchalantly walked out of that thing, like, you know, basically just giving his condolences and then leaving. So there was no reason for them to suspect that he was going off to like do something risky, that they might have followed him. You know, he made sure that they weren't going to attempt something like that.
Right.
He just went off by himself and brought her back, you know.
Which was very reckless.
Yeah. It was a lot more reckless than I think it looked.
Well,
but yeah, I think I can't really say that there was just one particular driver for him doing it. I think it was all of those reasons. His own view on the value of like teammates and life and stuff.
I think also Soldat did have a bit of an impact on that, because he does monologue about half-assing it, and I think he kind of was like, am I doing this for my own self-satisfaction, or am I just half-assing this again? And I think he wanted to... I think he does have a bit of attachment to Sarah.
Right.
And I think he didn't want to lose that. And I think he felt guilty that if he went with them instead of putting around doing stupid other stuff to try and get his name out, which in the end was probably not really going to work the way he'd hoped, maybe he could have prevented that. And maybe that's like something in the back of his mind that's more theory. There's not much evidence to prove that, but it's kind of something that I wonder if that's maybe something that.
And also,
intention.
Although Rudius doesn't know this yet, what we know from season 1 is that Roxy already knows where Zenith is, and she's on her way to tell Paul. So Rudius getting his name out isn't going to actually amount to anything, because Paul will know where Zenith is. And
the
they'll
world
be
is
able
very big place, and just going through one town is very, very ineffective. Like, Rudy is wasting a massive amount of time just potting around in that town.
Right.
Like, yeah. Because he just can't think of another strategy.
Yeah.
I mean, the only other thing he could
vision.
really realistically do is make his way back to Millis, where Paul may still be, but that would take years, maybe a year or two. And you know, so instead he's trying to gather information. But it's information that we know from the last episode of season 1 that Roxy already has and is taking to Paul.
Yeah.
Elena Lise from them, and she's
midget girl.
And Elena Lise is basically going, when they split the party up, Roxy and Talhan were going to Paul. Elena Lise doesn't want to see Paul again, so she's going to find Rudius, supposedly. You know, that's what she's setting out to do at the end of season 1. She wants to find Rudius to tell him Zenith has been located and Paul's party will be mounting a rescue mission. So he doesn't need to be doing any of this, you know? But of course, it's going to take Elena Lise a long time to find him and to travel to where he is. So until he gets this news, he's basically doing something that is going to prove to have been completely pointless. And we know that, but he doesn't. So even the value of the strategy he's using, at least the only thing that can be said about it from his point of view is that he has at least an objective. He's trying to find his mother. But then if he had that information, maybe he would try and get back to Paul, or maybe he would try and, you know, do something different. Maybe he would try and rescue Zenith himself or whatever. It's like he's basically wasting time at the moment because he doesn't have that information. Information travels so slowly, but of course we know that information, so we know he's wasting his time. So there is that kind of like that sense of, yeah, Rudius, maybe he's like, yeah, am I half-assing this? And it's like, you know, your strategy isn't great to begin with, but it's the only one you can think of. And we also know that it's going to prove to have not added any value to the search for Zenith at all. What it has done is made Rudius somewhat famous in certain regions, though. So, you know, maybe that will count for something in the future.
But through that, I guess,
if he needs to network or something, you know.
Because my big understanding, I was also surprised. I'm like, damn, you're spending months here. Was like, I was like, oh, that's right, trauma brain. Like when you're still recovering and whatnot, you're not making the most logical decisions out there. You try and like surround yourself with like the one thing that you can do, right? It's like you made it this far. What if I make an impact here? And your goal, your long-term goal, well, it might still weigh on your head. Like your brain might just be automatically telling you, oh, but there's bound to be someone or something here. And it's like that gambling fallacy, which is like when you're gambling and say that you lost $20, but like the machine is about to pay off. A lot of people are going to put more money into the machine thinking that they're going to get something back, right? Because you've already lost because you're so close. It's that whole like addiction mentality that comes through with it, especially when you're hurt and when something comes, like you're really, really hurt. You might go with your friends somewhere. You might be like, oh wow, this is the best place over. What if we stay here a little bit longer? What if we stay here a little bit longer? What if we do this? And like you just keep extending out the reasons as to why you must stay there. And through an animalistic perspective, like the psychology of like say animals and stuff, when an animal is hurt or dying, what do they do usually?
They go somewhere quiet.
Yeah, they go somewhere quiet.
And they're alone.
Yeah. And in the very beginning of this, right, it's like he sort of went off into like the sticks, if we're gonna be honest, out in the middle of like this town, like seems far away from any major thing where Rudy would probably thrive in again. So it's sort of that social isolation aspect as well, where he's a hurt man and he's following sort of that hurt mentality as well.
Poor Rudy.
I know. I'm like, the more we talk about it, the more I'm empathizing with him, the more it hurts.
I'm actually getting video ideas from your chat right now, so.
Oh. Look at you go. But I always love these conversations. Guys, you guys make my head like go 100 miles an hour. I have like so many notes taken down and I'm like, ooh, this is going to be interesting to explore.
It is actually quite a lot of fun for us as well, because you are like, if you'd read the novels as well, we could certainly have some interesting conversations about the psychology and all that. But the fact that you haven't and you're making predictions actually makes it kind of really fun.
I mean, even if Ed had read the light novels, we can't really talk about it because spoilers, and we don't want to spoil people that randomly stumble into the stream. But with Ed not reading it, it's like, how can we play with things?
Yeah, but I mean, you can always say that a stream is going to have spoilers, if you want to.
Yeah.
If that's what you want to talk about. I've done that before for like ReZero and stuff. But
video works better.
Most of the time, I prefer to go spoiler free on streams. But if it was something that we could discuss, then we could discuss it on here on our streams. Obviously we've both read the novels and a lot of the people in the chat have read the novels,
right?
So while we keep them spoiler free, we can hint at stuff and know that people in the chat who know, if they know, they know, and we can kind of sort of half talk about it. Here we can't do that because you would just any little hint, you would just be on it. You would get what the hint was. So we have quite a lot of fun trying to
skirt around it. I'm sure it must be a little difficult.
And because all the questions you ask are just directly, will this spoiler happen or not?
Will this major event happen? Yes or no?
It's like, well, dude.
I'm glad that SP already figured out the correct answer to those questions, though.
But the reason why I ask it like that is because I hate beating around the bush, especially when like an idea comes to be. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm seeing this pattern starting to develop. So I'd rather just ask up front than try and like meander and like, try and like, sort of lead the conversation in that way and just be like, no, okay, this is what I'm seeing. Here's why. You don't have to say yes or no, but like, I'm just letting you know.
Of course, I know you're really like just, the question is really just you framing what your theory is or a potential theory is, rather than you actually wanting us to say, well, yes, of course there's,
I mean, if you did say that, I would. I would lose my mind on stream. You'd see me yell like, "What? No way!"
Yeah, you would just ban us, wouldn't you, if we
Yeah.
actually answered these questions?
It's
Be
just a lie
cancelled
detector.
forever.
Ed,
Yeah.
Orsted, and Rudy have a child.
Quick, wait.
It's my
His
running
name is-
joke with
They
everyone.
have a child together, and his name's Peppy.
Oh gosh.
And he's half like dragon race. He's half dragon race and half human, and he can
fires
do like
out fire.
crazy magic, and he
Crazy
becomes
magic.
a superhero. He becomes a vigilante. Rudius's son becomes like a vigilante, and he goes around doing like Batman stuff.
Ooh. Oh, that okay. So this is set in future orientation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
Okay.
and there's a special side story called Ellen Elise's Side Stories where she goes around looking for child support because of all her children.
Mushoku Tensei, court edition now. So I guess my question for you guys, and I guess one of the as we're wrapping up, because I do got to go eat in a little bit before jumping on to the next one, is what is Laplace, and how are we getting into that?
Well, believe it or not, Ed, I actually have about a 40-minute long video.
I swear to God, this woman.
What I also have is a something like 10-hour long playlist of me reading out a prequel novel to Mushoku Tensei called Old Dragon's Tale. And Laplace is the protagonist of that prequel novel. So you learn a lot about him if you wanted to read that. And while it is a prequel, so it's not going to have, and it's set thousands of years before Mushoku Tensei.
Right.
So it's a prequel. It's not going to spoil anything you're going to see in Mushoku Tensei, really. But there is some stuff in there that will spoil, I would say, certain major conflicts in the series that haven't become apparent yet in the anime. So you could probably engage with that content and find out all about Laplace if you were to be on about it's probably going to be like halfway through season 3. So yeah, I wouldn't read it yet. If you're interested in it, though, it probably never will be animated, and it is a prequel, so that could be something you might want to not necessarily watch, because you can listen to me read it out.
Oh, I would love to hear you reading.
Yeah. Everybody loves my readings, my bedtime stories, because that's what everyone tells me to make. Apparently, people like that more than when I write my own content. Which is great to hear as a writer. I'm sure you can. Just go and be a voice actor, Natalie. It's like me.
I do have other questions related to this. I'll just throw out a list of questions that I've had, and you guys can pick and choose at least one that you guys feel is appropriate or decent, which is, who is Geese working for, and what are his goals? That's a question, an overall question that I've had. The hypersexuality in Elise, is it a curse, or is it an aspect of themselves? Is it self-made from trauma? Right. What is
one we can answer, I think.
That one you can answer, you think?
I think so. That's not a spoiler, is it?
I don't think she's quite explained.
She has, though, when she was talking to Roxy.
Yeah, okay, yeah, because I don't think she's explained it to Rudy yet.
She hasn't. She hasn't met Rudy yet.
True.
But she did explain it to Roxy somewhat, and enough that I think answering his question isn't a spoiler, because the word was used, and the word was curse.
But I would say just leave it at that. Ed can find out about it in future weeks.
Yeah.
Future weeks. Okay, so it's coming. just as much as Pepe wants to come. Okay, what's after that? I have a couple other ones, which is for, I guess, for as long as Roxy has lived, right? Is there a connection between the elves? Do they all know one another, or is there an aspect of knowledge? It sounds really bad now that I do. They all know one another, but like no, like at least
Roxy isn't an elf.
All right.
She's a demon.
She's a demon. Well, still, the longevity of age
She's only in her 40s. She's not like super old. They live to be like 200 or something, and they don't really look mature until they get to 150.
Right.
That's why her parents look like the same age as her. But
her parents look great.
They're not super long lived like the elves. And the people that she knows, she comes from that village that we saw her reunite with her parents in season 1. If she hadn't gone away traveling, she would have just spent her whole life there, and that would be the only people she would know. So she's connected to people that she's met through adventuring and stuff like that, but she's not really connected to anybody else in particular. And
I got a counter question for Ed.
Sure.
Do you think Eleanor Lisa's actions towards her children and her offspring are going to have a repercussion?
I mean, I hope they do. I hope they're brought up. I hope they're showcased in the setting, because that's in a realistic setting. Like, you don't just get away without like interactions, and heck, even if you do have kids that are attached to you, right? Like, you do get blamed for stuff in later years, and there is a lot of like, not necessarily blamed for stuff, but like there is conversations and discussions that usually kids have with their parents as they grow. So I have a question for you, which is there going to be a point where either Paul or Rudyard or someone in Rudius's past confronts him with what the fuck happened with theirs?
Yes.
I love just the yes.
Someone from Rudius's past will at some point in the future confront him. I don't think that's really a spoiler, is it?
It's me over here like
that's the best answer. Yes.
Yeah.
That question was terribly vague, because it could be any character from his past and a confrontation about anything that they don't necessarily think he's done that well. So yeah, well,
the reason why I bring this up is like I showcased this. I actually asked this during the episode, which is like, it happens to everyone. Like, when you've had like a breakup, right? And it's only your immediate family that knows, and you go out and about or whatever, and you meet a friend that thought that you're still in that relationship. They'll ask that question, right? Like, what happened with you and your partner? And it's like, are you as an individual ready to answer that question? And that's sort of where my mind rushes.
I don't know how much that happens in the modern day, because as soon as you change your Facebook status to single, everyone just starts insulting you. Or your ex does, but it's kind of I think, yeah, I don't know. If you're saying, will someone from Rudius's past be surprised that he's no longer with Eris? Is that what you're saying?
Right.
And ask what happened. I mean, I can answer.
I don't know if the mic's picking it up, but I'm like cussing at him right now. He's crafty.
This question is less vague than the previous one. So I'm not really happy to give it a yes or no answer, because you'd be able to narrow down, if I said yes, who it might be.
You basically just said yes.
I said, if I said yes, you would be able to narrow it down.
Ed's smart enough to know if you're going to do a loop around, he's going to know that that's basically a yes. You don't need an input, cat.
Oh, the cat's having an input as well.
The cat just moaned. You know what?
Show me the chunker.
On screen.
It's told me the cat's really chunky and I want to see it.
A chunky cat. Let's go. Oh.
Oh. Oh, Neko-chan.
You are one heavy animal.
So cute.
It's adorable.
Is it a boy or a girl?
Girl.
Oh.
A lady.
Oh god, Gypsy, you're so fucking heavy.
Language, SP. Oh, look how cute. Have you got any cats, Ed?
I have 3 doggos.
Do you ever get to show them on stream?
Yeah, whenever they
Or
come
can you
on
not
by.
to camera, right? Are they big old doggos or small doggos?
One of them is a husky that's as big as literally, I guess, me sitting down where I am right now. He's a big boy. He's a real big boy.
Oh, cool.
And then the other one is a pug and a chihuahua.
Oh, so you have all the sizes of dog.
Yeah, all kinds of dogs. Yeah, but
the chihuahua you could just pick up and show us to the camera. You know, if he wanders in.
if he wanders in, yeah, I'll pick him up. Oh no, a husky does it scream? Yes. What were you gonna ask, Nat?
I was going to ask something about your husky, but then I thought we might just end up going a bit off topic. But with the huskies, don't they get really hot in summer and you have to put them in like a paddling pool full of ice or something so that they chill out? I'm sure I saw someone do that in a YouTube video.
So he is literally like, I don't know how to put it, like an indoor princess per se, because he likes to sleep inside with the AC, and then he'll go out, he'll do his business, and then like knock at the door to come back in. He's like, that's all he does all day. And at night I take him on walks, but that's why I'm like, yeah, he really does need some good AC or a good little doggo pool or something for him.
Oh,
he's great. He's great.
oh, so cute, SB.
I know,
what?
SB.
Your cat's so cute. I want to pet it.
Oh, close up view. Close up view.
Oh. Oh.
Oh.
It's making little noises.
Oh. Oh.
Oh, and she's got a little pink collar.
Yeah, she has a pink collar. For the fleas.
I want a pink collar. Not for the fleas.
There we go. We just do close-up camera for now.
I think a collar looks good.
Yeah, it does. That's why I want one for myself. It's not, and it's not because I have fleas.
Do you want me to check?
Ooh. Just
for
don't
whether
go
I'm
on.
kinky or for whether I have fleas.
I'll do a very thorough inspection.
Oh.
If we weren't talking about fleas, that would sound sexy, but we're talking about fleas.
That's what makes it more funny.
Yeah. Oh. Okay, this stream's now just devolved into us like.
Yeah, watching my cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
really
adorable.
cute.
Oh. So
every stream is improved. It is improved by pets, though. When people have their pets.
Masters, Ed and Deep Thought. Yeah, I was just thinking. I'm like, so does that mean that we're about to see? Like, this was my thought process. Was Nana Hoshi, right?
Yeah.
Displaced.
7 stars.
7 stars.
That means the word Nana means 7 and Hoshi means stars.
So are we ever gonna see Rudius and what's his name? Orsted come together?
Get it on. Yeah, we've
Yeah.
already told you they have
All right, I'm excited for that. I'm excited.
It becomes Batman.
You don't need to eat my cereal.
But no, like that's sort of where my mind goes in, which is essentially like, are we ever gonna see them get it on? We're about to see a also what was up with that like hentai looking tree? It was like a Venus flytrap for people? Sorry, that's where my mind immediately went to.
The deal with the tree is that there are monsters all over the world called tree ants, and we actually saw some in season 1 because they range from being like kind of crappy mobs that you can just kill and use for firewood to being a lot more dangerous depending on the region. And that one was a more dangerous one, and it was kind of saving her for a snack, basically.
I mean, I wonder if you can have it as a pet.
I wonder. I'd love to have one as a pet, though.
I'd love to have one as a pet as well.
If it was raised well by someone with skill, gardening and stuff.
I think someone with a lot of skill, dedication, love and care could really bring up one of those as a very good, valuable pet for the household.
Yeah, because you could get it to do stuff like be like security, like the Whomping Willow from Harry Potter.
I mean, that would be pretty cool.
But
Yeah,
when it knows you, because it's well trained, because it's a monster, when it knows you, it could just like open the door for you like a butler. That would be cool.
that would be pretty cool. I'm like, I don't know what you guys are hinting at, or you guys are going through with it, but I'm just saying that would be pretty cool.
You're having a lot of fun with you right now, Ed.
Oh, I'm sure. Like my mind's like, wait, what? I was just thinking, like, we get as wild because I tend to have some wild ReZero theories just always floating around and shit. And I'm like, I feel like Mushoku Tensei is really taking the cake in my brain. You guys always just like put these ideas in my head, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be thinking about this for the next couple of days. But all right, guys, I gotta dip out in a little bit. Just take a 15-20 minute break and then start the next one because I gotta eat something because I haven't eaten anything all day. So with that though, SB, any advice, anything that you would say for the coming episode?
Just buckle up, buckaroos.
Oh no.
Popcorn, get some popcorn, and be ready for the future weeks. Because
which is going to get exciting, let's just say.
It's going to get good. It's going to get good, and there's going to be so much drama. My ad revenue is going to be so happy.
I'm so excited for it. Nat, what about you? What would you say?
Like I said, buckle up, buckaroos.
Buckle up.
We're both in agreement that, yeah, these future weeks are going to be really spicy. It's basically, this is the calm before the storm. These 3 episodes, like the episode 0 is getting you ready to know like the back stuff, like the foundations, and then episode 1 and 2 basically is the calm before the storm, and then things are going to heat up, and it's just going to keep going and going and going and going and going.
And there's going to be
on Twitter.
Controversies.
I'm going to write down every single controversy. I'm going to be on the Discord. I'm going to be reading everything, and I'm going to milk it.
Milk it like
we're going to go ham on
the milk it like I milk my Pepe.
Twitter reactions. Don't milk your Pepe.
Okay.
That won't make you productive.
Before we head out, can we talk about
OnlyFans? Can we talk? You know, that will make your ad revenue happy.
Can we talk about one big thing, which is, hey, yo, if you're watching this from Twitter, if you even managed to, thanks for staying the whole way through and not just making an assumption based on like the clickbait title or like the title that is placed there. There's more at work than just that. I'm just throwing that out there just because it seems like there's a rise in people just immediately trying to jump in and like shit on others because of like, oh yeah, they make an assumption based on like the thumbnail and based on others rather than watching the entire thing through. I'm just gonna be straight up about it.
Ed, I know exactly what Ed's talking about.
I do too.
A lot of people came after me because the title had cut content. And people assumed it was about a specific thing I said in the video, but didn't realize that I wasn't actually saying that was cut. It was other stuff that was cut. So a lot of people came after me for that. And were like, oh, you clickbaited that. No, you just didn't watch the video.
Yep.
And he's such a smart ass. that now he just uses cut content in all of his video titles.
as long as there's a little bit of cut content in it, it's all legal. So now I just put in like a couple of like little lines of, oh yeah, this was cut, and then I just put cut content in the title and wait for people to go smack into the keyboard. It's like, that algorithm.
You know what, SP? That'd be like if I put SP and Nat spoil me. You would have a rampage of people just jumping in there. But yeah, sometimes just like trust me, it's not just that. It's like I've seen others just immediately jump on the hate bandwagon, and I was like, what is going on? Like, what are you talking about? Like,
the thing is, Ed, if I do a spoiler video, most of my most successful videos, I got like 200,000 views on a video about what happens to Zenith. You know, like it's full on spoilers, and it's in the title that there's full on spoilers. It's in the intro. Don't watch this if you don't want to be spoiled. And those are the videos that everybody watches because I think a lot of people want the spoilers. And the thing with that is, you know, because I'm one of those people too. If there's a series I can't really be bothered to read, but I kind of want to know what happens to a character, and then maybe I learn some spoilers and I get hyped to see that happen, and then I will read it. So I do stuff like that. And I get the mentality of wanting to see the spoilers. And that's why I make those videos. But I'm really, really careful not to spoil anything in the thumbnail or the title, because people don't choose what thumbnails and titles they see. And so my thing is, if it's a spoiler video and I can't really put an image on the thing, I'd just use a basic image of Rudius, you know, something like that. And SP's really careful about this too.
Right.
But because a lot of other channels do actually not care about that, we all get kind of tarred with the same brush. So people expect us to be not cautious about spoilers, and we really are. Like, yeah, sometimes on stream you maybe say something that you thought was shown in the anime, you know, and maybe it wasn't. You know, maybe that conversation wasn't in the anime, you're just remembering it from the novel.
Right.
And then it would, you know, then it would be cut content. But, you know, it's that kind of thing. On a stream, you're certainly not going to spoil like the big revelations or anything, but you might accidentally spoil something little. But in a video where you have a chance to sort of edit it, and, you know, I script mine, but even if you do them the way that SB does, which is, you know, more with like notes and just talking freely, you still watch it back first, and you can be like, yeah, oh, I cut that bit out, you know, edit that out if you accidentally said more than you should have. And so it's very easy to not spoil people. It's also, there is a demand for spoiling people, and I find that a lot of my audience really want the spoilers. So I kind of try and do a balance of anime only and spoiler content, but the spoiler content way outdoes the anime only stuff.
I think if you label your titles with like spoiler content, people know what they're going into. Like,
yeah,
I'm sorry, but if I labeled something as like, you know, we spoil this story, and people click on it, they're like, I didn't want to be spoiled. It's like, it's the title, dude. What are you just not reading? Like, what's going on here? So,
and when you say something's cut content, it's going to be, you know, it could be something that maybe it's been shuffled around and it will appear in a later episode. But you're talking about how it was in the novel and what you would know at this point of the novel. You know, so you could basically have said all of the stuff in episode 0 was cut content during season 1, because that stuff all appeared in the light novels over the course of volumes in season 1. They chose to just show it as one whole story on its own, but that was the way it was done. So you could have realistically made a video during season 1 saying this whole stuff with Sylphie and Ariel, that's cut content, and told that whole story and said this was cut. Because, you know, you couldn't have, obviously we kind of knew they were going to show it in season 2 because it's necessary for it to be known by a certain point in season 2. So they weren't going to just miss it altogether. And so you could definitely predict that that had been just moved to a future part. But there are certain things that you just don't know. And so if you say it's cut content and you talk about it, and then it transpires that it's going to come up in a later episode, you couldn't have predicted that. You're just saying this is what I knew at this point in the novels, and it wasn't shown in the episode, so I'm going to assume it's not going to be shown at all, you know. And that's what they were complaining about Espy's video.
Right.
It's like wait till you've seen the whole arc, because they might put that stuff in a later video. And that wasn't even the part of the video that was cut content either. That was just him talking about like the lore of the character, which I also talked about in my video about Sarah. But because I never said it was cut content, I just said this is like the backstory of this character. You know, I didn't get any grief for it, but he's just been leaning into it though, haven't you, babe?
If people are going to make angry comments, I might as well use them for my benefit.
Honestly.
Yeah.
My thing is, haters are always going to hate no matter what. Like, I think we've all gotten them at some point in time, especially as the content creators that we are. We all get them for stupid reasons. I get some.
I actually DM'd someone that got a lot of hate on Twitter, and they're actually really upset right now. And me and that person have actually had a bit of a scuffle online, and I DM'd them and I said, you know, even though we've had our differences, you know, you're a good person, you're valued in the community, don't let the hate get to you. And they reply and they're like, that meant a lot to me, man. It's like, you know, I know we've not seen eye to eye, and he's like, I really appreciate that. And he's like, thank you, you're really a top person, even with our differences. And I think people don't realize that we are goddamn bloody human.
Right. And
well, some channels I think might actually just be AI, but we're human.
Yeah.
You know what I mean by that, right? Because we talk about this quite a lot.
But I think that's the key, is like sometimes people forget, whether it's in the comment sections or on Twitter or whatnot, that we're human at the end of the day. And like, we're not perfect. We all have our own, like, you know, discrepancies. We all fuck up from time to time. But it's like, we're putting out this content because like we have a love for what we're watching, right? And we enjoy what we're watching, and we're open to having conversations like that. There's some people though, some I guess haters or whatnot, that I actually kind of find funny, which is like they come into some of the videos, right, where I'm like, hey, we're gonna be pausing, we're gonna be like legitimately pausing like every 20-30 seconds and talking about it. And the most common hate thing is like, oh, why are you pausing so much? And it's like, why can't you just like watch the entire thing and just make silly faces? And it's like,
that's a common complaint from reactionary channels, because I'm friends with a couple of the reactionary channels, and they say that's a very common thing, that people don't watch your content for you, they just want the actual episode itself. Because some of the things that they do is they'll talk during it, and people go, oh, why don't you talk less and watch more? And it's like,
you can watch that on your own, dude.
Yeah,
it's like you're on a pirate website if you're that poor that you're going on YouTube.
Right.
It says me who actually is that poor and does watch it on pirate website.
YouTube used to be really easy to find episodes on. It used to be that whole like multi-part phrase, like 6 parts to an episode or 8 parts, and then one would disappear.
Right.
But now everything's on pirating sites. But people still expect, like, I've had people say to me, oh, why don't you just upload the entire episode?
Yeah.
Would you like my channel to be struck down?
And well, I think, you know, there used to be that kind of like Susie Lou type channel that really was just her watching an episode of Naruto, which was just, she was basically just uploading the episode with her sort of sitting there going, every now and again, you know, she didn't do anything. And it was just like, maybe that's, you know, obviously.
It's become a big problem on Twitch now as well, where some people will just watch the entire episode and not actually. And that's why, like, I'm not the biggest fan of reactionary content. Right. But Ed's content is very different. That's proper analysis.
I think if you're stopping the episode to then analyze the scene you just watched, that's fair use. You know, that's analysis content.
Right.
If you're just watching the whole thing through and occasionally laughing or occasionally going, oh, you know, or cool, you know, like when watching some shonen battle show or something, then you're not really making content. You know, you're just re-uploading episodes of something you don't own. And you know, there are reaction channels that add value and, you know, give you the experience of watching it with somebody who's got something interesting to say about it. But there's also, because channels like Susie Lou did so well and everybody knew why they did well, there's a kind of expectation among some viewers that that's the experience they're going to have when they click on a reaction channel. They're just going to get to watch the episode of something and maybe feel like they're watching it with a friend because someone else laughs at the same time they laugh, you know. it's not the same thing.
What's interesting is like even within this community, like within the reaction community per se, there are a lot of reaction YouTubers, I guess, that have solidified the standard. Like, and I'm pretty sure it's not just me, but others will reach out and like, there's some DMs out there of people being like, "You're breaking the mold. You should stick to the format that have been set." Of them literally pogging out in emoji faces and whatnot. It's like I don't consider myself a reaction YouTuber. It's more like analysis. Like we're taking things out and we're breaking everything apart, and through that I'm like, is that for you? So are you transforming that content in general? But aside from that, another common critique is like, oh, you're monetizing the videos, and I'm like, nah, dude, 99% of all videos on my channel are unmonetized. There you go. That's all the people out there, that's the number one thing to throw out there. You can tell what kind of react video it is by its time. It's either 15 minutes, 1 hour, or a legendary 4 hours, or in the case of Oshinoko, 6 hours, right? So yeah, like you can really tell a lot by video size and for reaction channels, I guess. But
yeah, but I mean, like this is technically a stream where you did the reaction, but then you have this phase where you just talk to me and SB about penis names and stuff,
right. But that's what
which you definitely wouldn't see on a Susie Lou style reaction video.
But through that, I am beyond excited to see what comes. I'm also excited for whenever ReZero comes out, because we all know that's going to have 101 things to talk about as well. But SBNet, I appreciate you a ton. You guys mean the world to me. I hope you guys know, especially these Sundays wouldn't be the same without y'all.
I always look forward to these nights. I'm always like counting, got the stream nights ready.
It's party time.
Exactly.
It is party time. With that being said, chat, I appreciate y'all. Give me like 15, 30 minutes or 20 minutes. I'm going to go eat something, come back, re-energize a little bit, and get ready for that Zom 100 analysis. I think it's an interesting anime. It's a new seasonal, and I'm like, zombies that isn't really about zombies. Like, okay, I'm down. I don't know about you guys, but that's my one of the seasonals I'm watching. What
I
about
haven't
you?
started it yet, but I hear such good things about it that I'm going to. I just haven't got around to it yet.
Let's go.
Yeah, I gotta watch the Harry Potter Dark Souls edition. Episode 2 came out, so.
Harry Potter Dark Souls.
Oh yeah, I need to start that as well.
What
so far, I'm only watching Mushoku Tensei.
It's got some RR in it too. There's a big milfy in there. Oh.
Love you too, chat. But with that being said, SP, I love you. Nat, you're my world as well. I love you too. Pepe, I love you too. We'll show you some love.
Everybody loves SP's cat now as well. So
right. But with that being said, chat, we'll be right back.